think the question everyone wants to know at this point is, will you quit the Labor Party?
Look, when I was crossing the floor, I crossed it knowing that there was going to be the potential expulsion as a consequence.
Live on 6 News, this is New South Wales Decides, Local Elections 2024.
And you are watching live, 6 o'clock Australian Eastern Standard Time. Welcome into 6 News' special live coverage of the 2024 New South Wales local government elections, the only full broadcast coverage of tonight's elections. Why does no one else do this? Well, I can't think of any good reason why, but we're here doing it for you because we're for you and we're doing it for you. So we've got coverage from every single local government area in the country tonight with the best election team in the country. Maggie Perry and Stuart Jeffrey you just saw there, and of course we'll be bringing you, I think, all the results from all 128 local government areas. There's also a bunch of mayoral elections, a couple referendums as well. Every ward, every candidate, every local party, everything. We'll be bringing you those details. We, of course, want to hear what you think, especially if you are in New South Wales. Let us know in the live chat where you're watching from, and if there's any particular race you want us to focus on, use that hashtag 6NewsAU. Leave your thoughts and comments throughout the night. We'll be bringing you all the latest details on that. We also hope to have a couple MPs on later tonight as we discuss and dissect the results. Of course, the Libertarian Party is hoping for a big night in probably their biggest ever local campaign, and then the Greens are also, they're always hopeful, but they're especially hopeful here as we move into the next federal election. Of course, we'll be covering results from right across the state there, and of course, what will happen with the Liberal Party in all the places where they're no longer on the ballot. All those details for you right throughout the evening. Of course, a lot else going on in the news at the moment. For that, we want to head live to the 6 Newsroom. Here's Austin Pollock.
Thank you, Leo. We will get back to the New South Wales local government elections shortly, but to what else is making news right now. And a mother of 2 boys who were discovered deceased in a Blue Mountains home has been charged with 2 counts of murder. Emergency services responded to a residence in Falcon Bridge on Tuesday after concerns were raised about the welfare of a woman and 2 children. The boys, aged 11 and 9, were reportedly found by their father at the home in Falcon Bridge on the same day. New South Wales Police have said that the boy's 42-year-old mother was also found at the scene with stab wounds and was transported to hospital in a critical but stable condition. After being discharged from the hospital on Friday, she was taken to Parramatta Police Station and charged with 2 counts of murder related to domestic violence, according to police. A man has died after a light plane crash southeast of Bendigo in central Victoria. Police say the pilot, the aircraft's sole occupant, died in Reddersdale yesterday afternoon. It's believed he was flying over private property when the plane crashed at about 12:30 p.m. He died at the scene. One witness has told the ABC that he drove to the crash site and saw a massive ball of flames and realised the plane had exploded on impact. Authorities will now prepare a report for the coroner. The Greens have opposed the federal government's proposed social media ban for teenagers under a certain age. South Australian Senator Sarah Hanson-Young has described the move as a knee-jerk policy. Here's some of what she told 6 News.
Obviously, we're concerned about how these social media platforms are continuing to be in many ways unsafe spaces for not just young people though, Leo, like for a lot of people. And these big tech companies have gotten away for far too long of self-regulation or even no regulation. And, they feed on people's private data, they sell it to advertisers, they target people with pretty manipulative algorithms. All of this is secret. Like, there's a lot of problems with how the big social media giants work. But we are concerned that rather than tackling those issues, a ban on teenagers being able to access social media seems, frankly, the wrong way to go. We're worried about the impact that this will have on young people themselves, and locking them out of what is clearly an important part now of community and society. And rather than just banning people, we should be making those platforms safer, making them take responsibility, regulating them, and protecting young people from the insidious nature of their business models. So that's the algorithms that are manipulative, the targeting of advertising, and the real privacy intrusion that these big social media giants have.
And that is 6 News for now. I'll be back with you next hour. We'll have all the latest headlines for you coming up then. For now, though, we're going to head back to Leo Puglisi in 6 News headquarters as we continue our coverage as New South Wales decides in the local elections.
You're watching New South Wales Decides Local Elections 2024.
And you're back with us here on 6 News, continuing our live coverage of the 2024 New South Wales local government elections. Really nice to have you here with us. We've got our best election team in the country, Maggie Perry and Stuart Jeffrey. Maggie, I'll get to you. Obviously, the Greens have always been pretty big in terms of their local government campaigns, right? That's where they, in many states, got their first representatives. And you'd think some good results here are what they're looking for when it comes to the next federal campaign.
Yeah, well, they're really going to want to see a really good result in Tweed Shire. That's located in the division of Richmond. They're trying to win it off of Labor, and they were very close, just 1 or 2 percentage points off winning that seat federally. They're really going to want to perform very strongly in Sydney as well. Clovermore has been losing popularity, it looks like, compared to previous elections, and they're really going to want to win that mayoral election in Sydney.
Yeah, definitely, and we'll keep an eye out on Clovermore, and we'll have those results for you at the bottom of the screen, the City of Sydney race. Also interesting, of course, is the Liberal Party, or the lack of the Liberal Party in many of these local government areas. Could this be something that harms them till, beyond the next local elections in 2028, right? We're talking about some of their strongholds, Northern Beaches, areas even like Wollongong and Blue Mountains, where they've had representatives, and now they're immediately gone. How bad could this really get for them?
Well, obviously this is going to lose them a ton of local councillors. You saw a 19-year-old Labor member elected as a councillor in Penrith in a ward where the Liberals were guaranteed multiple councillors, and she won because the Liberals just couldn't contest. She was automatically elected. And we're seeing a really horrible consequences of this failure for the Liberals. And I think it will translate into problems for the federal election and much later, the state election, because they really need to keep their name presence. Once people start voting for another party, they might just stay there, and I think they're going to lose some votes to this. I'm not sure how much, but we'll have to wait until the federal election, which is in less than a year.
Yeah, definitely. Labor also, in some of these areas with a high Arab and Muslim population, there's been a lot of talk about Palestine, right, for both the next federal election, but there has been this We Vote for Palestine campaign, which has been, I guess you could say, endorsing some candidates. I think one of my lights just went off, has been endorsing candidates, and I think they've supported places like the Greens, and I think the process is mainly just, submit a candidate form. Do you agree with these policies? But how do you think this could play into some of these Labor strongholds, where I guess the Greens don't traditionally do well, but Palestine is on the mind for a lot of voters, and obviously anger just against the word Labor?
Yeah, well, I mean, in the UK, just a few months ago, we saw Labor lose, I think, 5 seats to pro-Palestine independents with electorates that were quite high in Muslim population, and this could really affect them. I think Labor will definitely drop in primary. I'm not sure where this will go. I think it will scatter among independents, bits of the Greens, honestly, bits of the Liberals. A lot of these areas have actually been trending to the right, more socially conservative. Voted against gay marriage, voted against the voice. I think Labor's going to lose a lot of voters there, whether it's because of Palestine or not. I'm not exactly sure if this We Vote for Palestine campaign will affect much. I'm not sure if people are paying much attention to endorsements, but I think the Labor primary will definitely fall in these local councils, presuming the Liberals are standing.
Yeah, and you know, we'll have to wait and see. That's the thing about these local elections, right? You can't guarantee any party is standing anywhere. That's the fun of it. Stuart, some party that is going in a lot of places at the moment is the Libertarian Party, right? They are endorsing in, I think, the most local government areas ever in their campaigns in the past, right? They've previously had some successes, the LDP, but they do have one councillor at the moment in Snowy Valleys. They're also aiming in a number of areas. How important is this to, I guess, the party's both future and also whether you're gauging the kind of success of the Libertarian name? Because this is the first time that they've been really using that Libertarian name out there and widespread.
Well, they have been trying in New South Wales for a while. Of course, at the last election, John Ruddock was elected. Now, in Victoria, they're in a bit of a decline. It's just David Limbrick left there after the last election, but in New South Wales we can definitely see them stepping up, trying to fill those seats, especially with so many Liberals disendorsed. Libertarian Party has an option there to go in some of these seats. People who would normally vote Liberal may be able to vote Libertarian Party instead. Of course, we have seen preference steals between the two parties in the past, so I think they could really go in their favour here, definitely pick up a fair few council seats.
I'm interested in all the talk we've had about One Nation in the past couple of weeks, right? And they've had a few defections. I mean, they always do, right? Something that they don't do is endorse for local government. Now, they did back in, I think, 1999. They had one councillor. I think they kept doing it right until the early 2000s, but they've not done it, right? You know, you'd be hard-pressed to find someone who remembers a One Nation local council campaign, right? Is that something they should consider at this point, trying to get some grassroots momentum out there? Because you think the Libertarian Party, if we're talking about the notionally, you know, freedom parties, the Libertarian Party is really the only one that's doing it this widespread.
No, I think of the three so-called freedom parties, the UAP, which is currently federally deregistered, and then One Nation and Libertarian Party, if you had asked me 2 years ago, I would have said probably it's One Nation doing it the best, but right now, One Nation definitely dropped down. Now, of course, they have had this issue in the past. In 1998, of course, they had, I think, 11 or more MPs, and they basically collapsed. And then you had Hill in there as well, which ended up with a High Court case, and she lost her seat, and so on. So One Nation has tried in the past to go like very broad, and they failed there. So One Nation tends to focus right now, at least, on upper houses, whether that be the Senate federally or Legislative Council in New South Wales. They don't go for the grassroots approach, which we are seeing from the Libertarian Party here. And if it does look for the Libertarian Party here, then they could win games at the federal election, maybe 1 or 2 seats, probably likely to get a Senate seat in New South Wales rather than winning in the House of Reps, but definitely could get a Senate seat if they pull it off well. If they don't, then they've lost all momentum.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye out on that. In a few minutes, we hope to have New South Wales Libertarian MP John Ruddock with us live. We'll work on that behind the scenes. A couple of comments coming in, and keep letting those comments come in. Woodex writes, the Nationals cannot run in local elections as a ticket, so yes, they run as independents. That's absolutely true, right? There are a few independent national candidates on their own, a few independent national groups. I think the Southern Highlands Nationals branch is supporting one of the tickets there. I don't remember the exact electorate, the exact LGA, but yeah, it's weird that the Nationals don't. You can say good or bad, but it is, you know, it is weird. Other comments, Cumberland should be an interesting one, absolutely. You got Steve Christo there from our local community, and of course you've had those controversies in recent months. I think most people remember the book ban controversy and how that played out. You know, you've got Labor there. I believe the Liberals are back to endorsing for there as well. Lake Macquarie should absolutely be interesting as well. You've got a decent local party there in terms of getting the vote numbers. Lake Mac Independence, so we'll see there. And also Comrade Pigeon writes, Norfolk Islanders. I wish they were doing it, but we still have an election for Norfolk Island Regional Council. I have no idea what is going on Norfolk Island. I'm not sure anyone watching does either. But keep those comments coming in live for us. Use that hashtag #6NewsAU. And we'll keep covering this. By the way, if you're just interested in terms of finding results, the New South Wales Electoral Commission should have them. It's weird, the ABC doesn't seem to have any on their website at the moment, which we may have been trying to rely on, but you know, you've got us, so trust us. We'll be here with you all night. Again, counting should be beginning very soon, and we'll get the first results around 6:30, the Sydney Morning Herald saying, and polling does close, counting does close at 10 o'clock Eastern time, so appreciate your company here. Again, we're just working on getting John Ruddock with us in a moment. Some other comments: Wollongong, Camden, Campbelltown. Guy deleted his Camden message. Yes, Newcastle Mayor could be interesting. Labor obviously holds that at the moment, but you've got the, I believe it's our Newcastle, I believe, is the ticket being run there and headed by Dr. Ross Kerridge, as you rightly point out in the chat there. So that will be interesting. So I am just monitoring the Skype chat here. We should have John Ruddock with us in a minute. I am literally just waiting and waiting to see whether we get that name up in a moment. But again, keep letting your comments in. Tweed absolutely should be very well interesting. And Maggie, you mentioned it before, right? In terms of where the Greens are going to go in Tweed, I believe there's a lot of talk about where they'll go with Nola Firth, their current councillor, and how that will impact things, of course, with Richmond at the next federal election.
Yeah, I think the Greens are running a strong campaign, trying to win for Nola Firth and there. But they've also got the advantage of having a lot of Queensland volunteers who obviously aren't having an election right now. So it's going to be interesting to see. We're definitely going to have to follow this. I've noticed that they've actually preferenced Labor last as well, which is a very interesting decision in Tweed.
Ooh,
There's no
start
Liberal
the discourse on that.
or National, I believe, at least in some wards.
Yeah, we'll see. You have to remember how many, look, there's like 128 LGAs. We have to remember there's even more wars, mayoral races. It's really confusing. One good benefit though, and I think we should all give a lot of credit to the New South Wales Electoral Commission here. You can find pretty much every how to vote card. No, you can find every how to vote card on their website, really publicly available. You can find party memberships for independents. All of that's on there. The New South Wales Electoral Commission have been very helpful. Appreciate that. There are two places that will not be using the New South Wales Electoral Commission because they don't have to. Fairfield and Liverpool will be conducted by the AEC, and I don't mean the Australian Electoral Commission. I mean the private company, the Australian Election Company, will be conducting those two. We'll wait and see if that impacts results coming in, although they seem to go all right last time. We will wait and see there. So fingers crossed that all goes smoothly, because Fairfield is an interesting race. You've got both Frank Carbone and Dilay there, and we'll figure that one out. I am told, by the way, John Ruddock is in the process of joining, and we should get him in a minute through no fault of his own. I think the Skype link's all right, though, no, it is right, because I'm seeing him in it. Anyway, John will be with us soon. I'm sure we'll have a nice chat in a second. Let us know, by the way, when you see results or anything else interesting coming in, because I don't want to be constantly looking over at that screen. That's right, use that hashtag #6NewsAU. We'll just fingers crossed for John here. If I can get a message in my ear when we know he's good, that'd be great. Stuart, do you have a talking point for us? Anything? Come on, 128 local government areas. You can find something. Save me.
Can I go Norfolk Islands? Because I know a little about that. Actually, I know a little bit about it because we're currently working on it for the Diet Federalism series, which was originally territory rights. So we scrapped that, Diet Federalism. It's my name for the relationship between the territories and the federal government. Norfolk was given self-government in 1978, I believe, same time as the Northern Territory. But then that was scrapped. It was first mentioned being scrapped in 2015ish. They had a referendum to get rid of it. Not even 1,000 people voted in the referendum. It's a very, very small legislative assembly there. In fact, no parties. They were all independents. That's how small it was. That got scrapped thanks to a bailout from the Commonwealth government, and then they were given a little council instead. They are also, I believe, in the seat of Bean is where they vote federally. And right now, the council's in limbo. No one knows what's really happening. They've had scrapped elections. We don't know what's happening there either. So if you know,
they were supposed to go in 2020 and then 21 and then 24. They're evidently not going ahead in 2024. What is interesting, Labor did used to have a branch there, and the Liberals do have a branch there, and the Liberals did have a councillor, and they did have a member of the Assembly before then. So it's weird, but it does exist. I'm just going to send a new link to John Ruddock in a moment, but if you could pick up on promoting between Parks Place and Capitol Hill, please do.
Absolutely. Diet Federalism series. If we put the first article out in this week just gone, we floated around with Commonwealth knowledge, as I'm sure many of our viewers know, looking at issues mostly constitutional, but then politics, occasionally government, a bit of history in there. But Diet Federalism is our first focused GovCheck series. I'll be joined by a parliamentary reporter, Aidan, for that. It'll be a bit more than weekly. We're looking at doing a series. In fact, we've got the next couple of articles already planned for. I'll be doing articles looking at jurisdiction over the internal territories, which Northern Territory and the ACT. And then we'll do another looking at the external territories, which is New Guinea, which used to be a colony. Actually, part of the colony, then New Guinea, then they merged them. So very interesting politics there, and that'll be our next two articles looking at that before moving into just how many rights they don't have, including right to trial.
Yeah, I believe we've got John Ruddock with us now. I'll just let him turn his camera on, but if he can hear me, just an FYI, he is live. I can hear you. I think we've got you live on air. I can see you.
Okay, good. You can see and hear me.
There we go. I think we've got him up on air now. Should be able to hear you. You are live on Six News. John Ruddock, good evening to you.
Thanks very much for having me, Leo.
Great to have you here. Glad we worked out those tech issues. So what is the mood in terms of the Libertarian camp at the moment? I know that you already were planning a pretty strong campaign, but the stuff-ups with the Liberals in some places might just be a early Christmas for you guys, I can imagine.
Wales, okay, but we are very anxious and keen to see what happens. I would like to say, look, firstly, the most amount of councillors that our party has won previously in New South Wales council elections is 2, and that was about 10 years ago. So we are a very small party, but we are hopeful, we are reasonably optimistic that we are a party with momentum, and we have had quite a vigorous campaign. Look, we would have liked to have run a lot more candidates than we did, but we have had sort of 35 candidates run, and they've been terrific candidates. They've been running very, very hard. So we'll know within the next hour. I'm happy to join you in another hour or two and give you an update. But I think tonight could be quite a turning point for our party. I think it will show that we have got. We got elected to the New South Wales Upper House last year. And I think that we have. The party is growing, and I think that we will hopefully see that tonight.
Yeah, and you're right that there has been a lot of changes, of course, since your election. Right, this is of course probably the biggest campaign you've run under this new Libertarian name, so you're having to get that name recognition out there, I imagine. Have there been any particular wards or LGAs that you've been focusing on? I know you've got one incumbent in Snowy Valleys. I also know that there's some other places where it looks like you might have a chance, places like Mid-North Coast, one ward in Canterbury, Bankstown as well. Any particular focuses, or have you just been putting resources, I guess, everywhere you can?
Okay, well, look, we are hopeful in Camden, we are hopeful in Parramatta and Liverpool and Canterbury. Okay, but look, you were right, Leo. The council area that we are the most optimistic is the Mid-North Coast. It's quite a big council area. It's north of Newcastle, sort of south of Coffs Harbour. And, there's the rates in that council area have had more than a 100% increase in their rates, and the people are very upset. Now, I would say that we're very grateful to David Gillespie, who's the federal member for the National Party. He's been handing out votes for us today, okay, and we've got some terrific candidates up there on the coast. we are reasonably confident that that's going to be our best result tonight, the Mid-North Coast.
We'll have to wait and see on that. That's very interesting. You said there you've got a Nationals MP handing out how to votes for you, so that is interesting.
Yes.
Just circling back to what I mentioned earlier, and as you say, right, we haven't had votes in yet. But have you made any, strategy changes since the Liberals dropped out in terms of how you're, I guess, positioning yourself, or have you gone with, the original plan? Because, I mean, it is, probably the most extraordinary circumstances we've seen since the, constant delays with COVID from the last local elections.
Well, look, I mean, we are critics of the Liberal Party. Because we believe in Liberal Party principles. Most have differences, but mostly we believe in Liberal Party principles. But we do believe, and we campaign and say that they are weak, that they don't really live up to their principles about small government and free enterprise, etc., etc. So, look, we are an ideological party. We like to think of ourselves as an intellectual party. And so our campaign strategy didn't really change when the Liberal Party had that stuff up. I mean, we didn't have any opportunity to change, because when the nominations closed, that's when we knew that there was a stuff up. So we didn't really have an opportunity to put more candidates into the field. But look, look, where we are not running, we are generally recommending that people do vote for the Liberal Party, even though we accept that the Liberal Party has basically been taken. There are good people in the Liberal Party, Leo. I'll give you that. Okay, there are people in the Liberal Party that we like, but it is dominated by spivs, opportunists, and careerists, and that is the reality. Our party president is Ross Cameron in New South Wales. He was a minister in the Howard government. Okay, now he has left the party. Okay, I've left the party. I wrote a book, Make the Liberal Party Great Again. We just came to the view in the middle of COVID, in the middle of the, after 2 years of lockdown over a bad flu, we came to the view this is a party, and people like myself and Ross had tried to reform the party. We had been disappointed by them for many years, and we thought, well, the best thing we can do for Australian politics is reform the Liberal Party. But after 18 months of lockdown and selling out on all the global warming hoax, and getting us into $1 trillion worth of debt over a bad flu and other bad things, we thought, well, look, the best thing we can do for Australian politics is not to reform the Liberal Party, but to grow a purist party, a party that is genuinely committed to small government. And that's why we joined the Libertarian Party.
Just finally, I'm just interested on a kind of broad level here. Why is it that you have put this local elections focus in, right? And I say that because we were discussing on air before how, other parties that I guess could be considered freedom parties, like, One Nation most notably, they've never really tried in local government. And look, One Nation has their own issues at the moment. But why have you put in such a big campaign? And I note as well that in Victoria, you're also doing some campaigning as a party down there as well for next month's elections.
Okay, good question. Well, look, we are going to contest every federal by-election, every federal election, every state by-election, and all the local council elections. We're going to contest every frigging election that we possibly can. We want to fly the flag for small government and the Libertarian Party. We want to, when people know that we exist, they vote for us. Okay, so most people don't know we exist, and we're very grateful to Six News for giving us for taking an interest in us. Okay, now if people know that we exist, a very large number of people say, I want to vote for these guys and gals. Okay, so we want to contest every election. We really hope that we get elected. We hope that we win the elections. But a major part of contesting all these by-elections is we want the average Aussie out there to know that there is a party out there that is radically committed to small government. That's why we have given everything we can for this local council elections, but we're still just getting going. We're still in first gear, but we are picking up. We've got momentum, and we want to keep going.
We'll cover these results with great interest, and of course we note, by the way, probably helpful for your party is that on the ballot it does say formally the Liberal Democrats, and it doesn't federally, but it does at these elections. So that could be a game changer. But we'll have to wait and see. I'm sure we'll catch up again in the future. New South Wales Libertarian MLC, John Ruddock, thanks very much, and best of luck for your party tonight.
Thanks so much, Leo.
John Ruddock there, Libertarian Party MLC in the New South Wales Parliament, just speaking to us there. He's welcome to leave the call now. Really great to hear his insights. Interesting that he said there that New South Wales Nationals federal MP David Gillespie was helping and supporting the party for the so that's an interesting factor there. But Stuart, you heard him there. He's going to contest, and his party's going to contest every friggin' election he can, and that includes federal and state by-elections. So really it seems to be full steam ahead for the Libertarian Party at the moment.
Can we clip that? Can we just clip that one phrase from him and run it over and over again? Every freaking election. Putting that aside, it does seem to be the goal for the. I mean, of course, it's the goal. He just mentioned it. But it does seem to be a goal that has worked for them. I want to look back at the federal election. Was it the Ngari that they had like a massive 10% spike in the Northern Territory?
That would be Solomon and Darwin, I believe. Yeah.
There you go. See, this is why there's a team of it's not just me talking. But yeah, like that random spike there, 10%. So I think they fielded candidates in most seats at the federal election. And it definitely...
They did. I know they fielded enough to theoretically form government. So it was over 76 last time. I wouldn't be surprised if they get similar numbers in 25.
Yeah, they definitely are taking a bit more of it. They've tried what they've done in Victoria, and that's gone iffy. They've tried in Western Australia, and that, again, they lost their seat there in the upper house. Of course, that was in 2020, where everyone lost their... No, 2021. I get my dates wrong, which was when they had the massive red wave in Western Australia. But it seems to be working in New South Wales, at least from what we're hearing from polling. We've still yet to see that in practice, which we'll get as the results start coming through. I believe we're going to get them as of 1 minute ago onwards.
Yeah, we should. So they'll start to trickle in. And I'll note from the Sydney Morning Herald, Anthony Seagard on there. By the way, great journalist, been great local coverage, and I've been chatting with him. There's some great stuff on there. He does note, of course, as we always like to point out, the first numbers are going to be coming in from these smaller booths, and could not be reflective. And also, by Friday morning, 1.3 million people had voted, right? It's a lot of pre-polls. So we'll see there. Again, no counting tomorrow night, by the way. Tonight's counting ends at 10 o'clock. We will have to wait and see, I guess, in some of these results. And again, by the way, it really doesn't seem like the ABC's doing their website coverage. So New South Wales Electoral Commission it is. We will be closely monitoring some of these details and these coverage that comes in. Mid-Coast Council is the one. I thought it was called Mid-North Coast. Is it Mid-Coast? Whatever it's called. Mid-Coast Council looks like where that is where the Libertarian Party is confident there. What do you think, Stuart, a good night will look like? He said 2 seats was the most they've won an election before. 3?
Look, I could see them getting 4. It's looking pretty good for Elvis there, so I reckon there's a good chance for him. Is it Canterbury? I don't know, I'm from Queensland, I don't care.
Canterbury, Bankstown.
There we go, yep, I was right. Canterbury, just in the general area. Yeah, I definitely see him having a good chance of getting in. A couple of other seats we're watching as well. I want to be a bit more optimistic and say maybe 4, maybe 5, but not many more than that. But that's still definitely a good performance for them, a good turnout to get 4 or 5 councillors. I don't see them getting any mayors, but definitely a few councillors. A spattering of councillors is definitely in the options for them. And I think anything less than the 3, and it'd be looking quite bad for them. They need to get at least 3 to have the momentum they need to then go into the next federal election. If they only get 2, I don't see them having enough steam.
We'll see there. I would not be surprised if they get a couple more. I reckon they could shoot for 10. I really do believe that. Now, they really, if we're honest, Stuart, they should be starting at 1. They have an incumbent. if they lose that incumbent in snowy valleys, there's a problem there. That will, of course, not be reflective of everywhere in the state. You know, every LGA is different, but that would be a problem if they lost their incumbent. But we're all speculating here at the moment. Maggie, I'll get to you. What did you make of what John Ruddock said there about how the Libertarian Party, I guess, is going to be building over the next few months? He's saying they want to contest as much as they can, right? And it really does look like they're focusing on local government, which, as he said, right, he just wants to go for everything.
Yeah, that's really interesting in how much they want to run. And, you know, he's mentioned New South Wales. I mean, I presume that includes the New South Wales state election, which has optional preferential voting, which means a lot of those Libertarian voters won't really flow back to the Liberals. You know, they have a very strong preference flow to the Liberals. With optional preferential voting, they lose that, and that might really disadvantage the Liberals in some seats, maybe lose them some. I think that's mainly a flaw of optional preferential voting, but it'll be interesting to see how the Libertarians will improve on their vote share when they've just gotten a new name. They've started a completely new era of their party, and a lot of their votes came from, you know, people confusing them with the Liberals, let's be frank. I think that's how Leonhelm was elected, honestly.
No, it's true. David Lionhelm really got him because of that. I think he got a good ballot position as well. I should note, and I said at the end of the Ruddock interview, but this does have to be repeated, right? They have the words formerly Liberal Democrats on the ballot. They can't get that federally, but they do for this election. So that could be key. That might be in many places the only place where you see the word Liberal on the ballot. So it could absolutely be significant for them there. We'll have to wait and see. I'm not sure if they can use that word in their branding. Maybe. It is their ballot name, so I think yes. But look, they've been promoting.
They should be able to, yeah.
Yeah, and
they should be able to.
Look, we can look at all the how to vote cards. They should be on the New South Wales Electoral Commission website. Coming up next hour, by the way, we also hope to have another MLC on, Dr. Amanda Connor from the Greens. She's a former councillor herself, was on Albury City Council. I think she was deputy mayor there. We'll be chatting with her next hour if all goes smoothly. And we might get back to John Ruddock a little later, depending on how things all go. Look, there's been a lot of races to follow, by the way. Just want to get far out west here, because we were speaking last night with Tom Kennedy. He is the mayor of Broken Hill. Now, something pretty extraordinary happened in 2021 in Broken Hill, right? His group, For a Better Broken Hill, that won 50% of the vote out of the three groups that were running. Every member of his group was elected. He was also elected mayor. They've got a direct mayor election there. And Labor was reduced to third there. It's the exact same groups running this time, exact same mayoral candidates. Here's a bit of what Tom Kennedy, the mayor of Broken Hill, told Six News.
This race is going a similar way. 2.5 years ago, the election was, so a lot of people, even if you weren't considered to be doing a good job, you'd probably still get a similar vote. But we've achieved a lot over the 2.5 years. People in Broken Hill, most of the people I speak to are very happy with the way things are progressing. We're doing a lot of infrastructure, roads, footpaths are getting done, sporting facilities are getting done. We're in constant contact with both the state and federal government, whether that was when it's now a Labor government, but it was a coalition government. We got along with those just as well as we do with the Labor government. So having an independent mayor and council makes it very easy to deal with whoever's elected to government.
And of course, Broken Hill is in the minority that it does have you as a directly elected mayor. What do you see as, I guess, the benefits of having the top position, you know, put in by voters rather than, as most councils do, by councillors?
Look, I've always been a supporter of popular elected mayor. Popular elected mayor is directly answerable to the community as opposed to an elected mayor via councillors. Their first obligation is to the councillors that elect them. So they don't always do what's in the best interests of the community. Popular elected mayor can be considered populist, and sometimes that can have a negative connotation outside the community. But for the community, communities love to be able to elect their mayor. I did speak to the Office of Local Government and LG New South Wales. The best mayors are usually popularly elected mayors that have a majority. And unfortunately, some of the worst councils are popularly elected mayors that have a minority because they are unable to push the mandate that they were given because they just don't have the numbers on the floor of council to achieve what they want to achieve.
Now, in terms of those issues facing Broken Hill, right, shortened term, obviously, given the delays until December 2021 from the last election, but what do you see as both the issues that have come in this term, and then are they the same ones you think voters will be thinking about as they go to vote?
Yeah, look, one of the things, and it's hit the whole of the state, not just the whole of the state, the whole of the country, is a shortage of housing. I didn't think I'd see it in Broken Hill, but we do have a shortage of housing, and we actually have a 0.6 vacancy rate, which is one of the lowest in the states, which is something you can be proud of, but it adds difficulties where some of those people that can't afford rents are suddenly their rents are driven higher. So I get contacted by people regularly saying, look, Tom, the rents have got out of control. Is there anything you can do? And from a council perspective, all we can do is try and free up land to introduce more housing, which then takes the pressure off that demand, which then can lower prices. So they're one of the things that is affecting Broken Hill. Childcare is also affecting Broken Hill, probably more than other areas. We only have one childcare spot for 7 people looking for it. So very, very difficult. That is to do with educators, but also not enough facilities to cater to that. And one thing that we really need to do is make sure we get an airport that can land bigger jets, which then will take some of that pressure on airfares, and we can get to Sydney, Melbourne at cheaper prices, because we're 1,100 kilometres from Sydney, 900 kilometres from Melbourne, and 500 kilometres from Adelaide. So we're a long way from the major cities. We've got about 13,000 voters and about 18,500 population. The thing is, there wouldn't be many people who don't know that I'm the mayor. So council matters come up all the time, whether it's at my work or even if I'm out to dinner or out playing sport. So it's good. And I like it because you actually get to see all facets of people's lives, and you get to be able to change a lot of things on a really personal level. But sometimes it can be hard because you are so known. You're not anonymous in your own city, put it that way.
And how have you found the campaigning going? Pre-polling obviously started last week, and we're into the final day tomorrow.
Look, pre-poll's going really well, getting lots of good feedback. I don't like to make predictions, but I would be very surprised if we didn't at least get the same numbers we got last time.
Just one thing on turnout, right? There's obviously one thing about, making sure that you get you and your group's message out there. There's another, making sure people get out to vote in the first place. Turnout was, I think, look, compared to some other regional places, I think it was just over 80% last time, not the worst. How do you make sure that people are aware that it's going on, right? You've got obviously the New South Wales Electoral Commission, they'll do their own messaging, but as mayor, you would have a role in that.
Yeah, so what we do, it was in our newsletter, but there's also a lot of campaigning. The candidates have posters around for the last 4 or 5 weeks, including myself. So you do a lot of social media as well. Unfortunately, in Broken Hill, we don't have a paper at the moment, but there will be a paper starting up again in October. So that'll be really good for Broken Hill. So it's very difficult if you don't have a paper. Word is getting around, so word of mouth is probably one of the best things in Broken Hill to get people out in voting. And being it compulsory voting, people, once they do find out about it, will get out and vote, because the fear of fines is probably a good driver. For me, you've got to do a good job. If you do it a good job for a while, you'll get independence for a long time. You change the culture of the city and you change the culture of the council itself. So once you get that mindset in, it's very difficult to get back. It'll take a long time of really strong Labor candidates to rebuild the Labor Party in Broken Hill. I don't want to see the Labor Party in Broken Hill destroyed, because you do want to make sure there is opposition or a government across the far west. You certainly don't want one brand of politics, no matter what it is. A lot of people in Broken Hill have Labor traditions. I'm quick to say that I'm old school Labor. I believe in some of the old policies from the 70s and the 80s when I was just a kid. They're still deep within me, and they're deep within most of Broken Hill. I suppose what's happened for us in Broken Hill, the Labor Party of today isn't the same Labor Party that many of us grew up with. But I still hope that they continue to keep that strength, because it's sometimes, if they do regrow and get back that fundamental purpose that they have, there's certainly someone that you need, because you need both forms of party. You don't want anyone dominating.
Back with us live here on 6 News. Keep your coverage coming, keep your comments coming in to our coverage tonight. Let us know in the live chat. There's one of the ballots you're seeing, by the way. Look, it's interesting. Different councils have different ballots, but here's one of them. This is for the City of Sydney, where you'll note, of course, it is above and below the line. You have, interestingly, by the way, that is what we were talking about earlier, how it does have formerly Liberal Democrats on the ballot there for the Libertarian Party, but that's how you vote. And by the way, of course, it is optional preferential. It's not group voting tickets. No one controls your preferences. You control them, and you can just say, I'll stop at 1, and that'll be interesting. And Maggie, I note that I think in Tweed, it's the Greens. They put Labor, well, technically you can say last, but they've left off a bunch of places because of that OPV.
Yeah, I was indeed wrong about that, but we're just starting to see some of the first results. Was it Snowy Valleys where there was a Libertarian councillor, Leo?
It is.
Well, I think I might be looking at a different thing, because there's no Libertarian.
Are you on Snowy Monero?
Yeah, different. But we're starting to get our first results. City of Parramatta, we're starting to see results. I think that's the main area where there's parties contesting of the areas that have reported already, and the ALP and the Liberals are neck and neck in this area. I believe there's two or three councillors. Yeah, you're right. So I was just going to say, I just did find some Snowy Valleys results. John Larder, that's his name. That's the incumbent Libertarian there. Now, we note, by the way, there is one group, and then there's also a bunch of ungrouped. So you want to make sure we're looking at the individual ungrouped of that. There are currently exactly 67 votes in at the moment, but currently Trina Thompson has 33 of those. The group has 77. Lata is on 1. Now, this is from Talbingo Public School. I may have totally flubbed that pronunciation, maybe not. Very early days. Point is, we do have some counting in. Any results, any wards, any mayoral races you want us to see, let us know. But we'll keep an eye out. John Larder is, of course, the incumbent Libertarian up on Snowy Valleys. He was a independent at the last 2 elections. He joined the Liberal, then the Liberal Democrats. He joined right after the 2021 elections. He was the Senate candidate in 2022, and now he's endorsed on the ballot after sitting as an independent Libertarian. He's now endorsed. He's got Libertarian on the ballot. We'll wait and see how John Larder goes. But we'll keep looking at the results. They are on the New South Wales Electoral Commission website. Maggie? Yeah. Hey, so we're starting to see our first results in Hawkesbury and Campbelltown. This is quite a big local government area. Campbelltown is where the only animal justice councillor is in New South Wales, I believe.
He'll lose. They've stuffed their ballot. He'll lose.
Yeah, there's only a few dozen votes in this area, but interestingly, Sustainable Australia, a pretty irrelevant micro-party, is doing quite well. But we're just starting to see our first results in Hawkesbury as well. The Liberals are leading.
Yeah, and forgive us, by the way, we didn't have every single party loaded up, so you're going to see the words other ahead a lot all tonight. Look, Sustainable Australia is interesting. They do have 2 incumbent councillors in North Sydney at the moment. They've also got one in Western Australia. Different story. What's interesting, and I didn't note this, William Burke, I think that's his name, who is the deputy mayor. He's also the Sustainable, I think he's the party's leader. Is he the founder? He's running second on their ticket in one of the North Sydney wards. So I'm not sure he really wants re-election there, unless the Electoral Commission website's wrong or I've read it wrong. We'll wait and see how Sustainable Australia goes. They're running in a couple LGAs. They've never had really much success outside of local, excluding Clifford Hayes, who once got in through group voting tickets in the Vic Upper House. He was actually my MP for once in Southern Metro. Anyway, we'll focus on them a lot. Again, it's really annoying, by the way. We don't have a statewide total of, say, the Liberal votes or the Labor votes or anything like that. We'll eventually calculate them. I'm sure Maggie, I can chuck you a few $1,000s to count every single vote and make it upstate. Where's Tasha? We'll get her to do that as well. But we'll figure that one out. Broken Hill, by the way, I just want to quickly bring this one up purely because we just had the mayor on and there are no votes in there. So we will go away from that and we will not come back to that. Yeah, really interesting to see how this is playing out. I'll just repeat it, by the way. Any results you want us to look at, let us know. Use that live chat, use the hashtag, any mayors specifically as well. And we'll have at the bottom of your screen, we've got it up, the Sydney count, of course. Clover Moore, she's running for a record 6th term as Lord Mayor of Sydney, up against a bunch of challenges. So we will see there.
Clover Moore in Sydney is going to be a very interesting race. The last local elections in 2021, she dropped 14% of the mayoral vote, ended up with 40% of a primary vote, which was still well ahead of her main competitors. Labor came second there with just about 16%, I believe. But if that pattern were to continue, she's in serious trouble. Who knows? The Greens, Labor, I'm not sure if the Liberals are actually nominated there. This is a question
they did nominate.
That we're going to see.
I think one of the main kind of opponent purely based on kind of vibes here, and I believe Labor was in the 2 candidate preferred in 2021, but his name's Zan. Is it Zan Maxwell? Oh, I should remember this. Oh, I follow him on Instagram. What's his name? Starts with a Z, doesn't it? It was Zan.
It's not really relevant.
Well, he might be. The point is he is a strong, I guess, candidate there in terms of at least being notable. If he can get above Clover, that'll be interesting. But like the Clover Moore independent team has kind of this, it's able to appeal to both ex-Lib and ex-Lab. So that's partly, I think, why they've maintained such dominance. But again, a lot of parties running there. So we'll wait and see for that. But
I did also
of Clover Moore independent team. We'll wait and see for her, Maggie.
Relevant to Clover Moore, her successor, she used to be a state MP for the electorate of Sydney before some laws were changed, so the mayor and councillors can't really stay in New South Wales State Parliament anymore. Anyways, her successor, Alex Greenwich, has obviously just in the past few days won a pretty big defamation case against Mark Latham. In the past few days, I believe $140,000 was the settlement.
So true. That has indeed happened. I believe Greenwich once ran on the Clover Moore ticket. So, I mean, he's practically representing that local party in Parliament, though.
He did.
Not really. Thank you, Stuart. He did. We'll wait and see in terms of some of these other results. Stuart, what do you make of how our local community is going, right? They're a bit of a, well, I'll say weird in the sense that most locally registered parties don't endorse in more than one LGA, right? OLC does. They have councillors in a number of LGAs. You don't see many examples like this. I know the Community Voice of Australia and New Party is endorsing in various LGAs, as is Unity. But what do you make of OLC? They're self-described, conservative. If they get a majority in Cumberland, Steve Christo says they'll ban Welcome to Country ceremonies. They've made a lot of attention given the Cumberland book ban. What could we be seeing for them?
Do they have, from memory, it's like nine councillors right now? 9
total, I think. They had a mayor in Canada Bay, but he got sacked by a corruption investigation, and they're not recontesting in Canada Bay. But on from that, Parramatta and Cumberland are their biggest areas.
Definitely, it is definitely weird. It has been done before. Look, I think that's one of the big focuses tonight is how well will OLC go. We don't have many parties that operate like this. There have been a few, but mostly they run as grouped group tickets, which we don't really have many group tickets here. We've got a smattering here and there. Saying that word a lot tonight. But OLC is probably the most dominant one doing it, running in a couple of different wards, and definitely going to be looking at Cumberland a lot tonight, going back there to see what exactly is going on there for Paul Garrett and his party.
Definitely, and it is his party, right? He founded it, and he's got his I believe his daughter Michelle Garrett's in the other LGA. I think I spoke to Ben Rowan about that. It's interesting there, but our local community definitely interesting, and I think what I should note as well in Parramatta and also Cumberland in 21, right? The Libs didn't endorse. And there were some in independent Liberals, but OLC seemed to pick up that vote. The Libs are back to endorsing in some of these places, and they are actually on the ballot. So whether that shapes things up, we'll have to wait and see. Approaching 7 o'clock Eastern Standard, we'll head to a break at 58 past. But Maggie, you've got some more new details for us.
Yep, we've got a lot of new results. We're starting to pour in. We were just talking about Cumberland. We've gotten results in the South Granville ward, which I'm sure everyone has heard of. Labour first, and the local community group is in second, but there's only about 50 votes. We've also gotten some votes in Coast, which is where the Libertarians are really seeking to, get a councillor, and 66 votes. Once again, not many, but they're in second there with 20% of a vote, which is quite impressive. If that holds, they'll be seeing one, maybe even two councillors in that area, which would be very impressive. Might even get mayor in that area. We've also got a few others. We've got Central Coast, where Liberals are leading, 200 votes counted in Wyong ward. In Mossman, the Greens are actually performing quite well with about 25%. And in Albury, we're going to have Amanda Cohn on later tonight. She was deputy mayor of Albury, and they've only gotten 2 votes so far, about 3% of a vote, 63 total. Might be a bit embarrassing if we see them not get a single councillor.
Well, we'll wait and see. It's unbelievably early. A couple comments coming in just quickly. Xavier Curry says, look at the mayoral race for Hunters Hill. We'll have a look at that. I know it's the Liberals and Team Ross there. Barely any contest there for council either. It's Liberals, it's Team Ross, and it's Hunters Hill Independents. Another comment, Eurobadalla, Advance Eurobadalla. Yes, they are, of course, the incumbents in the mayoral race. We'll have to wait and see how they go. I'll come back to that one. But again, keep your comments coming in. Dominic Perrottet fan, shut up. So we'll keep looking at some of these.
We've also gotten some of our first numbers in the sitting, actually, for the mayoral race.
You've got about 30 seconds. If you can get through them in 30
just
seconds.
About 200 votes. Clovermore, about 40%. That's about what he got last time. And the Greens in second, Labour third. Obviously, with first numbers, Clovermore would win, but it's just a few hundred votes. It's not very
If she gets into
reliable.
a 6th term, that is remarkable, by the way. That is remarkable. We'll wait and see that. As you say, very early. I'm very conscious of time. Stuart, you've got some Cumberland results for us. You've got about 20 seconds.
All right, good. 20-second summary. We've got Cumberland results for South Granville ward. Currently, the lead is Labour, but OLC is second.
OLC second at the moment. All right, we'll keep having a look at that. And I know we're kind of doubling up on some of these results, but that's what happens when you look at this. Again, either way, let us know any results you want us to have a look at. We'll be with you all throughout the evening. I'm just minding the centre now. There I am. We'll adjust that camera in the ad break. But just keep those comments coming in. Let us know where you're watching from, what races you want us to follow, what ward, what candidate, what party, what LGA, what mayoral race. Give us your comments, and yeah, we really do want to hear from you right throughout the evening. We're an hour into counting. There's a couple more hours to go. We'll be going until about 10 o'clock tonight, so stay with us. The only full coverage, the ABC isn't even doing anything on their website. They're the national broadcaster, but we're the ones doing the actual coverage here. You're watching 6 News Live as New South Wales decides local elections 2024. Stay with us.
You're watching New South Wales Decides Local Elections 2024.
The Prime Minister gets up and says this, and I'm thinking, does this come from Channel 6 News?
Thanks for having me on your wonderful program.
Of online news site 6 News.
And it's really good. 6 News. 6 News.
One Labor source has told 6 News that the party has no chance of winning, while another believes the party is either way.
Stephen Miles, he was walking just down the road here. long-time viewer, first time on the show. You can call me anytime.
Of all the stations and the clamouring journalists in Australia, she did the first interview with this kid.
Great story also of how our democracy is being run by high school students.
I think the question everyone wants to know at this point is, will you quit the Labor Party?
Look, when I was crossing the floor, I crossed it knowing that there was going to be the potential expulsion as a consequence.
Live on 6 News, this is New South Wales Decides, Local Elections 2024.
And you are watching 6 News Live as New South Wales decides our second hour of coverage for you tonight of the 2024 local government elections. I'm Leo Puglisi in 6 News headquarters. With us tonight, the best election team in the country, Maggie Perry and Stuart Jeffrey, and we'll be bringing you the results from every single local government era, every single ward, every single mayoral race, and we'll get some details on that coming in a few minutes. Later this hour as well, we're hoping to speak with Dr. Amanda Con, Greens MLC and a former Albury councillor and deputy mayor, and we'll be chatting with her. Hopefully we'll have some results coming in there, and of course leave your comments in the live chat. We want to know where you're watching from, what races you want us to have a look at, and we'll do our best to bring them up for you. No coverage on the ABC's website, so it's just us. You're stuck with us for the evening. Plenty else going on at the moment, of course, so for that we do want to quickly head to the 6 Newsroom. Here's Austin Pollock.
Thank you, Leo. We will get back to the New South Wales local government elections shortly, but what else is making the news right now? And a mother of 2 boys who were discovered deceased in a Blue Mountains home has been charged with 2 counts of murder. Emergency services responded to a residence in Falcon Bridge on Tuesday after concerns were raised about the welfare of a woman and 2 children. The boys, aged 11 and 9, were reportedly found by their father at the home in Falcon Bridge on the same day. New South Wales Police have said that the boy's 42-year-old mother was also found at the scene with stab wounds and was transported to hospital in a critical but stable condition. After being discharged from the hospital on Friday, she was taken to Parramatta Police Station and charged with 2 counts of murder related to domestic violence, according to police. A man has died after a light plane crash southeast of Bendigo in central Victoria. Police say the pilot, the aircraft's sole occupant, died in Reddersdale yesterday afternoon. It's believed he was flying over private property when the plane crashed at about 12:30 p.m. He died at the scene. One witness has told the ABC that he drove to the crash site and saw a massive ball of flames and realised the plane had exploded on impact. Authorities will now prepare a report for the coroner. The Greens have opposed the federal government's proposed social media ban for teenagers under a certain age. South Australian Senator Sarah Hanson-Young has described the move as a knee-jerk policy. Here's some of what she told 6 News.
Obviously, we're concerned about how these social media platforms are continuing to be in many ways unsafe spaces for not just young people though, Leo, like for a lot of people. And these big tech companies have gotten away for far too long of self-regulation or even no regulation. And, they feed on people's private data, they sell it to advertisers, They target people with pretty manipulative algorithms. All of this is secret. Like, there's a lot of problems with how the big social media giants work. But we are concerned that rather than tackling those issues, a ban on teenagers being able to access social media seems, frankly, the wrong way to go. We're worried about the impact that this will have on young people themselves, that and locking them out of what is clearly an important part now of community and society. And rather than just banning people, we should be making those platforms safer, making them take responsibility, regulating them, and protecting young people from the insidious nature of their business model. So that's the algorithms that are manipulative, the targeting of advertising, and the real privacy intrusion that these big social media giants have.
And that is 6 News for now. I'll be back with you next hour. We'll have all the latest headlines for you coming up then. For now, though, we're going to head back to Leo Puglisi in 6 News headquarters as we continue our coverage as New South Wales decides in the local elections.
You're watching New South Wales Decides Local Elections 2024.
Back with us live here on 6 News for our coverage of the 2024 New South Wales local government elections. I'm Leo Puglisi. We're the only news channel covering these live tonight. There is not another outlet in the country doing broadcast coverage. The ABC doesn't even have any results on their website. No one else is doing broadcast coverage. I mean, we're not like them. They're not like us. I don't know why, but, we'll be here all night for you, of course, doing this, because I love doing it. And I'm sure Stuart Jeffrey and Maggie Perry too as well. Maggie, I'll get to you first. Do we have anything new out of Sydney? And we'll have the results on the bottom of your screen because that is, of course, the capital here. Mind you, unlike, Brisbane, Sydney, and also Melbourne, they're relatively small LGAs. But what do we know?
Well, we've just gotten our first results for the council, different to the mayoral election. And interestingly, we're seeing the Greens in first for the council election ahead of Clovermore's independent team, just about 100 votes, but still very interesting that the Greens are ahead in this area. They've got about 31% community, and Clovermore independents 28, and Labor about 20, 21. As for the mayoral race, we've gotten some new numbers. We've got about 300 votes. Clovermore leads 35%, the Greens on 20%, and the Libs on 12%, and Labor on 16% in that area. So we could see the Greens finishing seconds to Clovermore in Sydney, which would be quite interesting. I don't think they'll be able to beat her. We'll have to wait and see. We haven't have any results yet.
Yeah, and it might struggle to last, to be fair, but we'll see there. Just bringing up again, I want to bring up Snowy Valleys, right? That's where they've got John Larder, the incumbent Libertarian. They're the only incumbent Libertarian at the moment, and as it stands, he has bam, there we go. He currently has the most votes, so John Larder's on track. So that was a far cry from the one vote he had. Wait, no, he doesn't. That's Julia Ham. Hang on, no, John Larder's got 27 votes.
No, not relevant, not relevant.
Yeah. Oh, okay, maybe he is struggling early. No, it's too early. I got to look at these columns more closely. This is why we need an ABC website. Forget that. John Larder has 27. How many votes does he have? Oh, it's bloody... this is a really stupid website sometimes. Okay, I was reading the wrong column. John Larder currently has blah, 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 blah. I want to say 30 votes or something like that. 40? 40. Julia Ham, the independent Liberal, has like 300 or something. 400. I'm going to give up on Snowy Valleys. Let's stick with the ones where there's groups. Stick with Sydney, or actually Stuart. But we've got you. Lake Macquarie is now reporting at the moment. Now, it's interesting there, right, because they have, Labor's obviously there. You've got the Liberals. You also have a pretty, I guess you could say, strong from a, not totally failing Lake Mac Independence as a third party, a local party there. What do we have from Lake Mac at the moment?
Yeah, I've got some figures out from North Ward, and currently we've got Labor coming in first, then the Liberals, then the Greens, then the Independents with Colin Grigg there, I believe. It could be, I think it's Colin Grigg, am I correct?
That name sounds like a name I recognise. Yeah, go on.
We'll go with that then. So, looking at the Independents coming in, again, early figures, very early figures. Independents, I think there are 3... I could be wrong, but they're
could I just, sorry,
I just
want to add...
Yes.
I just want to add this from Cumberland as well. This is from Twitter, parody Nick Adams on Twitter, but it is a real result. This is coming from, I'm not sure which ward it is in Cumberland, but it's one of them. And the informal vote is higher than every other candidate. So there's candidates on 21, 11, 15.
It'll be South Granville.
It's probably, yeah, I would assume so. And then the informal vote is at 32%. Now, granted, it's very early, but it's probably not what you want.
Yeah, I mean, coming in first there, looking at the figures now, the closest you've got there is 29.41%, which is Labor. This is looking at the figures for South Granville Ward. Currently informal 32%. So, looking like we're going to have a few a few empty council seats. Maybe if only that they gave informal vote seats and they just said empty seats for the rest of all the council meetings. That'd be amazing. But as things stand,
by-election if it crosses 50 or something.
None of the above.
Write-in candidates, we can go full US here. No, let's never ever go full US. Thank you, parody Nick Adams, for pointing that out. I hope you didn't Photoshop those results because I don't want to look like an idiot. Mid-Coast Council. Here we go. Okay, the current leader by 10%, the Libertarian Party, 30%, followed by the Greens at 19%, followed by an independent group at 11%, Labor's at 12%. The Libertarian Party is really ahead in Mid-Coast at the moment, 28% of the vote, with 683 votes in at the moment. But John Ruddock mentioned that as a target. That is looking very nice for them early on.
Yeah, that's a great result for them. I mean, it's even 10% is pretty huge. They'd be on track for 2 councillors on that number, which would be very impressive. Actually, no, more than 2 councillors. I think 3 or 4 on that number, but very surprising result for them. We've got a few more results around the place. Canterbury, Bankstown, Inverbanks, Bass Hill Ward, Labor's leading by 70%, and once again I'm noticing a very high informal vote, 36% in this ward. That's pretty embarrassing. We'll have to keep looking at this. Blacktown, Liberals lead 44%, Labor 33%, Greens 22%. Again, the informal vote is at 30%. This might be a trend. Yeah, I'm definitely noticing this as a trend in every single ward that I'm looking at. That's really worrying.
Hang on, looking at Mid-Coast, I'm just going to go back there. Leading the charge there are the LP and the Greens. So how's that for a contrast? You've already had one guest on from the LP, now we have a Greens guest on, and they're neck and neck in the Mid-Coast. So, bit of contrast there. Sorry to jump in, but...
Yeah, no, that's fine. It's very interesting that they're doing so well in Mid-Coast. They've clearly gotten some, I guess, maybe Liberal campaigners, Liberal volunteers, but I think this is a pretty huge success thanks to Libertarian campaigning here. I know they've got some candidates in Inner West. I'm just looking at Inner West actually, with about 1,000 votes, 2%. They're not looking very good here, but that's a good success in Mid-Coast at very least.
Moving to city of Blacktown with the AJP looking at running, and they're not doing very well there either. I believe we were talking about them earlier, probably off camera. But city of Blacktown looking at, we've got figures I think now for, is it just Ward 3 we've got figures for? Let me just check that. So we've got figures. There are 5 wards there. We've got reporting from 1, 3, and 5. I mean, we've got the Greens the Greens and AJP aren't doing very well there. Actually, looking at the wards who have commenced counting, we've only got 3 of the 5 that have commenced counting. In Ward 1, the Greens are coming in last. In Ward 3, they are coming in. There's last again. There's the AJP there, and then they're coming last in Ward 5. So not very good there. Those seats we do have declared candidates for the Liberal Party running there. Labor seeming to dominate, followed by the Liberals. So clearly we've got a two-party contest there almost. Two-party preferred. We need to get two-party preferred counting back in. Although I guess I've got optional preferential voting. Fix that and then do two-party preferred. I just don't do it Brisbane style. I say that as a Queenslander, so I think I can slag Brisbane's council system. Do you have any other figures to go through, Maggie, while we're here?
Yeah, we've got a lot. I'm just looking at Hornsby. Liberals 50% in Ward B. I think this really goes to show that, you know, the Liberals would have done really well in these areas if they actually were able to contest. I know they missed out on quite a few in North Sydney, which is their stronghold, or was their stronghold, until the Teal Independents came in federally. But the Liberals seem to be performing pretty strong. Penrith, North Ward, Liberals 46. This is also the area where they weren't able to contest some of the wards, and Labor got in uncontested, I believe. Just looking through Parramatta, Labor clearly in first. Parramatta is a pretty marginal seat federally, and Liberals on 21%, Labor 38. I guess good news for them at the federal election, which is going to be in just a few months.
Actually, I've just gone to the seat of Bland, which is not very bland. There are about 10 candidates there, all ungrouped, so individual candidates. And the most we've got there is Lisa Minogue, who's an independent, I believe, who's coming in first there. But that's one of the few seats where we're not getting too many informal votes. Informal, they're only at 6%. So we do have some of these more contested seats where we are seeing low numbers for informal votes, but definitely still seeing 11% in Camboon. I'm probably mispronouncing that, but yeah, again, numbers there. Bathurst Bathurst is not 34% informal in Bathurst. So we've got a third, more than a third of informal. It's a largely independent race there, and it's not looking too good there for anyone if they're all being beaten by Anna or none of the above. I guess we should have put an informal votes tab down on the ticker below, given how many of these seats are going towards those candidates, to use air quotes there.
I just saw someone ask for results in Wollongong. Looks like we've got our first ones. Tanny Brown for Labor, 38%, followed by, this is the mayoral race, by the way, followed by the Greens on 28%, which is a very strong result. This is 2,000 votes counted, so this is a quite the credible result. Andrew Anthony at 17%, Ryan Morris 13%, and Suzanne Devive at 4%. That's interesting. If the Greens were able to win the mayoral race in Wollongong, such a big regional city, I think that would be pretty impressive. I'm just going to look at a few others. We've got results in Newcastle, where Labor's at 32%, followed by Ross Kerridge at 29%. He's an independent, and the Greens at 22%. Once again, a very strong showing. Wollongong and Newcastle are in themselves quite strong areas for the Greens. They haven't been able to come second in and Newcastle, but the Greens have actually been able to win a federal by-election all the way back in 2002, I believe it was, in Wollongong, which was their first ever lower house seat, state or federal.
Looking like if I just move to Campbelltown for a second before we move back there, Sustainable Australia Party, which we were talking about earlier, might get a seat there. They're sitting at a 1.52 quota. So 15 councillors there, 73 candidates. and looks like Sustainable Australia could get a seat in the early figures. It's always early figures. At this time of night is only 18 minutes past 7, so they've only had counting for 30, 45 minutes at most, so these are still early figures. And AJP doing very, very poorly there. 5 votes, which is why it's early figures. Not even getting 1% of the vote there. But Sustainable Australia Party could be looking at, I want to say, a win. There, we've got a high informal count there, 16%. Labor doing very well there, for example. Independents doing okay. Greens might get 2 seats. So we've got preferences flowing from Sustainable Australia and the AJP towards the Green or Labor, which is why the Greens are doing so well. Probably all of our all the preferences we'll see will probably be flowing that way. All the excess Sustainable Australia votes. Could see the Greens getting 2, Sustainable Australia getting 1 there, which puts them at 3 between the 2 parties in a 15-seat council.
I'm presuming I'm back on live now. I had a few internet issues and I'm thinking I can still be heard. We'll keep going, and I trust we've had an insightful conversation for the last 5 minutes. Libertarian Party, I don't know how much we've been focusing on them, but they're still maintaining that lead mid-coast. And then also, have you guys seen Penrith at the moment? Because otherwise I'll bring up that detail. You have? Great. Okay, that is one that we'll watch in South Ward. I can't see it lasting, surely. Surely it can't last 55% of the vote for the Libertarians there, but...
Oh, really? We haven't looked at the results there. That's really surprising. We were looking at a different ward.
Penrith, South Ward, the Libertarians are leading 55% of the vote in Penrith South Ward at the moment.
Clovermore, what?
That is pretty extraordinary. Yeah, I'll forget Clovermore at the moment. That is pretty extraordinary. And their lead just increased in mid-coast. They're now at 31.7% in mid-coast. That is...
I think with the absence of the Liberals, the Libertarians are shaping up to have a very, very good night. And, you know, these councillors are going to last 3, 4, 5 years. I'm not sure how long the terms are.
4 years, yeah.
That being said, I just want to go back to Southwood Penrith for a second there. We've got a 30% informal count there as well. So just factoring that into it, that's probably a protest against Liberals not running there, which is why the LP is doing so well, as is none of the above.
I just wanted to go over some of the councils that people in the chat are mentioning. In Cumberland, we haven't really gotten any updates. Latest first in South Granville Ward. I'll check if there's a mayoral race, and in that area, I don't think there is. In Ryde, it looks like there are no votes counted yet. Just looking at some of the Central Coast, there seems to be, I think some votes are counted in the Central Coast. We'll have a look. Yep, in Gosford West, Liberals are leading with 50%. Independents are really far behind, trailing. 3 councillors elected, and Liberals are performing very well. I wonder if, you know, the Liberals would have had a great night in a lot of these councils, you know, Mid-Coast Council for one, if they were able to contest, which they clearly haven't.
We have some Clovermore results in, and they're sitting at 38% in City of Sydney. And you have a 2% informal vote.
Right. Mitch Dudley, so I was just going to say, you mentioned informal, it's a good segue. Mitch Dudley mentioned the live chat. It does say informal. Are you sure it doesn't include people who voted below the line? Maybe we'll come back to that. Maybe. We'll see. We'll come back
recount.
To that. Keep us posted. Peter Murphy. Great supporter of 6 News, by the way, Peter Murphy. Thank you very much. He suggests Ku-ring-gai Council on Sydney's North Shore. Let's take a look at that as well. Now, Ku-ring-gai is interesting in the sense that, well, I mean, with respect to the residents of that area, it's a bit boring. Parties don't really contest there, right? And you have a lot of independent Liberals. Labor and the Greens do have one group or candidate each. Still very kind of boring though, but he suggests that look, let's just take a look at Gordon.
We have got results in St Ives, I believe.
We've got one in
Justin
St
Independence.
Ives.
Yeah.
Right, well, off my count, actually I don't have all the names for the groups. In St Ives, there are some independent Liberals in there. There's one group on 37 and another on 40. We'll come back to that throughout the night. Obviously, for those of you watching at home, we'll be kind of navigating in the councils that are a bit more partisan, because obviously we don't have all the names. We're just looking at above the line groups, and so we can do, you know, we've got full details, localelections.com.au, but just bear with us during the night. We've got someone behind the scenes helping us out in the year, apart from Austin, doing a great job of support behind the scenes. Another suggestion, any news on the Central Coast referendum? Now, Central Coast, of course, is really interesting. This is the second election ever for that council. The first one was back in 2017. It's been under administration. There's been a lot of issues for that. There's a referendum to reduce the amount of councillors. I believe the exact referendum is to cut it to 3 wards. I could be wrong on that, but in turn that would...
You're correct. Sorry, you are correct. No, you're wrong.
Thank you, Stuart. The problem with this, and I think Ben Rao from the tally room's opposed to it, is that Central Coast Council covers the entire Central Coast region. That's 350,000 people, and it's only got 15 councillors at the moment. To cut that would be something. Now, I know there's a number of parties who are opposing that there, including the Greens have been open in opposing that. I think some of the others, Labor and the Liberals, might be. We'll wait and see there. Team Central Coast is an interesting factor there. But yes, I believe the referendum results are being counted. We will come back to that. And Dash just points in the live chat. Note for those marked with an asterisk, below the line votes are included in total and other figures. So thank you very much for that. We will...
Appreciate.
Parody Nick Adams. How could you? You misled me. Okay. Have you looked at Blue Mountains? We'll come back to Blue Mountains in a moment. That's one where there's no Liberals at the moment. But Maggie, I'll let you go ahead.
Sorry, just some updates on Wollongong. We've got 4,000 votes counted in this area. That's about 3% counted in Wollongong, so that's something. Labor's 38%, Greens 26%, and Independents Andrew Anthony and Ryan Morris are both at 16%. I think I've seen someone say the Hills, so I'll just go check them out, and it looks like there's no results in that area. And I'll just take on Shoalhaven, where some votes have been counted for the mayoral race. Looks like Patricia White is at 40% of the vote, Gemma Tribe 35%, and for Greens 25% for the mayoral race. That's 3,300 votes counted. That's quite a substantial amount of 85,000 electorates in that area.
Yeah, right. We'll keep looking at that. Sydney, of course, is probably we're going to have a lot of attention on at the moment. But I just want to keep coming back to Mid-Coast, and I'll just see if anything new has come in there yet. Okay, the Libertarian Party is still pretty strong, 28.898% of the vote there. Again, you just have to think, like, this should hold, surely, Maggie. You can't see it dramatically changing too much. We do have us live now, though, Dr. Amanda Conn. She is a New South Wales Greens MLC, a former Albury councillor, former Deputy Mayor of Albury, and I think we're able to bring her up live now. It's good to have you here.
Thanks so much for having me.
Really appreciate you making the time tonight. So, look, early results are coming in. I'll bring you some specific figures in a moment. But how have you felt about, I guess, the past couple of weeks and months of Greens campaigning statewide?
It's been such a strong campaign for the Greens across New South Wales. We had 377 candidates across 61 campaigns. Today on election day, we've had record numbers of volunteers in some parts of Sydney, and really positive energy. I think this is an opportunity for some communities who've never been represented by the Greens to get their first ever Greens representatives in local government, and we're really excited.
I mentioned it before with you, but obviously there's some areas where the Greens do have a presence and the Liberals don't. Blue Mountains, I guess, is a notable example of that. Do you think that even if you're standing by all, I guess, the same policies, you know, you might be able to get some of those maybe disaffected Liberal voters who are looking for an option? In some cases, it's just between Labor and the Greens.
That's right. So there are some areas where now the Greens are really the only opposition to the dominant group on council. You mentioned the Blue Mountains. You know, other areas that come to mind for me are Wollongong and Northern Beaches Council, where the Greens have really established ourselves as the opposition.
Definitely. I'll bring Maggie Perry in a second because we'll take a look at Albury. But we were noticing something like in Tweed, for instance, where you've got the federal electorate of Richmond, and I know that's an area the Greens are looking at the moment. Is this something that, I mean both statewide as well, when you're building on these local results, that's something you think you can take into federal elections, noting, of course, issues are always going to be different?
Every seat that we've ever won at a state or a federal level has been in an area where we've had local council representation first. And I think for those communities to have the opportunity to be represented by a Green, to understand what that means, how we work, the way that we represent the community certainly gives people more confidence to then vote Greens at that state or federal level.
I think Maggie Perry, you got a question?
Yeah, well, I mean, with the absence of the Liberals at the local elections, the Libertarians have really taken a rise. And, I think there'd be a party that the Greens would label right-wing, quite dangerous, or maybe cookers. What do you think about this maybe rise of the Libertarians, at least on a local level?
I think it's been really concerning to see that rise. I'm certainly aware of a handful of candidates that stood on platforms like, council should really be only about roads, rates and rubbish. Certainly in my own community of Albury, that would be no sports facilities, no swimming pools, no libraries, no regional art galleries, no parks and gardens. Councils manage so many things that make the communities we love the places that we want to live. So I think that is really concerning, and certainly that they had a fairly organised presence in parts of New South Wales.
And there was also, I wanted to ask you about the Sydney mayoral elections. How are you feeling? We've gotten a few thousand votes counted, and it looks like the Greens might be able to, at the very least, come second to Clover Moore. Maybe a win isn't ruled out at this point. What do you think about that?
Councillor Sylvie Ellsmore was such a strong candidate for Sydney Lord Mayor. She's had a particular focus on affordable housing, which is hitting people who live in inner city Sydney more than ever. Look, I think she's in the running, and certainly we hope to get a second Green, Matthew Thompson, elected at the City of Sydney as well.
All right, Dr. Amanda Conn will be keeping a close eye out on these results right throughout the evening. We'll also be looking at Albury very closely, your old council, but we'll be having a look right throughout the night and in the weeks ahead as counting continues. Really appreciate your time tonight, and best of luck to you and your party.
Really appreciate your focus on local government. It's great coverage. Keep it up.
Thank you very much. Dr. Amanda Conn there, Greens MLC in the New South Wales Parliament. Really appreciate her time there. And look, really just going over some of the results. You heard what was said there. They're hopeful of maybe getting a second councillor up in the City of Sydney, where we'll be monitoring those results. Of course, no calls made at the moment, but you were seeing them at the bottom of your screen. And for what it's worth in terms of Albury results, the Greens are at 3.7% of the vote. That's second last at the moment. Granted, there are only 84 votes in at the moment, so I don't think you can really read too much into that, but good to have her perspective there. And we of course spoke to John Ruddock last hour as well, and look, it's really great to have them on. Yeah, let us know your thoughts, your comments, your questions, your local government areas. Let us know in the live chat. Stuart, do we have any more results? And I'll give you a second to bring them up. Just in Cumberland at the moment, because I'm curious of how South Granville's going. Mind you, no dramatic informal vote there, as we've, eventually learned. But how is our local community tracking at this point?
We've still got just South Granville reporting, and it's pretty much staying the same. They're coming in 21. Yeah, actually, there might be no change. So let me just refresh the page. There we go. That'll for things I hadn't refreshed it yet. That's awkward. We've only got two wards reporting there. South Granville. Actually, I was right. It's still pretty much the same. Regent's Park, they're coming in, tying with the Independents there. 15.95% there. Liberals probably get one there. ALP will probably get one, and then it will go to either OLC or to Andrew Quah, probably is my best guess there. that is a 3-councillor seat, I believe. And then we're looking again at what was the other one you wanted to look at? The other Cumberland ward.
We don't have it at the moment, but
We've only got South Granville, which is, we don't actually have many recent figures out of there. OLC will probably get a seat in South Granville. I'm happy to say that for the time being, but apart from that, we don't have much change from it.
Maggie, you've got some more for us?
Yeah, we've gotten some really big updates for the Sydney mayoral race. Clovermore is currently leading at 40%. That's about the same as she got in 2021 when she had fallen 14%. I might have been a bit too early about the Greens. They've now got 14% of a vote for the mayoral race with Sylvie Elmore, and Zan Maxwell for Labor is at 18%. Looks like he'll be coming second as of now, but too early to tell. Only about 10% counted. As for the council results in Sydney, I'll just have to check that in a second. But I also wanted to point out a really interesting development. In Dubbo, city of Dubbo, the Shooters Party seems to be coming first right now for councillor elections. They'll easily be able to pick up 3 or even 4 councillors on that result. What do you think about that, Leah?
I think it's interesting, and the Shooters, Fishers and Farmers Party has collapsed in some regard in recent years in New South Wales, right? We saw what happened with their state lower house MPs, and I believe in their term they had 5 councillors last election. That's down to 2 coming into this election. 3 councillors incumbents have left the party, and yet they seem to be doing all right in Dubbo, and I'll take your word for it. I'll bring up the results as well. Dubbo Regional Council, it is a proportional race at the moment, but you're right. They are sitting at 35.11% of the vote. Now, you'll notice, again, it might be a bit deceptive on first glance. There is 33% of the vote that's going to ungrouped, but that's going to literally every ungrouped candidate there is, right? So we literally everyone who is ungrouped, we're talking about combining the vote there. Now, Dubbo is in, where is Dubbo? Is Dubbo in Riverina or is Dubbo in Central West? And I've forgotten. Dubbo, Riverina? Oh, I don't remember. I should probably remember these things, but it's not Riverina. It's
Ignore the Melburnian, it's fine.
I am the Melburnian, aren't I? Where is Dubbo? Orana. Is it in Orana? That is. Yeah, so interesting, you've got endorsed Greens, endorsed Labor there as well. Now, below the line, there are a couple of incumbents as well. What should be noted as well here, guys, is that, number one, also the Shooters, Fishers and Farmers Party is new at this election. They didn't contest last election in Dubbo. Number two, last election in Dubbo, there were several wards. They have abandoned those wards. It is now that one single undivided council. And so that's changed the race a bit now. That's why you have a lot of below-the-line incumbents, but a couple groups there that will be interesting. Again, the Shooters, Fishers and Farmers Party, we are looking at that. They're leading early. Kate Richardson is their lead candidate. They've got 6 candidates there for Dubbo Regional Council, 11 seats total up for grabs. So we'll wait and see what's going on in Dubbo.
I've just seen someone in the chat point out Parramatta. We've got a lot of results in every ward. In Dundas ward, the Liberals are in first with 31%. In second is CC. I'm not exactly sure what party that is, but
that's Community Champions.
Community Champions. 28%.
It's established by Kelly Darley, incumbent councillor. She ran as Kelly Darley. I think. Oh, please tell me I'm right. Is her surname Darley? Kelly Darley Independence. She was Kelly Darley Independence. That election's now registered party Community Champions, which is in all wards at the moment. Please go on.
Labor 23%. Our local community. 18% free councillors would be one to the Liberals, one to Labor, and one to Community Champions there. That's 2,300 votes counted there. In Epping Ward, the Liberals lead with 35%, Labor 24, Greens 16. And those 3 councillors would go to one of each party. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just going to say that the Sydney Morning Herald has some analysis up which says that Dundas Ward is the most competitive race at the moment, because you have the incumbent Kelly Darley for Community Champions, you have our local communities Michelle Garrett, right? And she is the daughter of the Our Local Community Party founder. But you also have both Labor there. Now, you'd think that's the three that get in, right? But no, you've got the Liberals endorsing this time. They didn't in 2021. That's how OLC had some of their gains. So that will be an interesting battle to watch. And interesting, Labor says they're quietly confident of success in Parramatta, but the major parties know the minor parties will be the real story tonight. That is what they're saying up in Parramatta via the Sydney Morning Herald.
Just keeping it with Parramatta, looks like the Libertarian Party will lose. They were contesting, Charlie Rios was contesting in Parramatta Ward, and I'm pretty happy to rule him out. He's dead last. OLC ahead of him, then Greens, and then Liberal and Labor pushing pretty much neck and neck there. So the Libertarian Party, I think we can cross Parramatta out for them.
All right, making an early call there. I'll note, by the way, something we definitely aren't crossing off, and I would almost be happy to call at least one seat for them, noting, of course, it's undivided, but on Mid-Coast Council, right, I would say, the Libertarian Party is well ahead there. They're maintaining that lead. They're at about 27.7% of the vote at the moment, and that is well ahead of anyone in second, right? The Libertarian Party on Mid-Coast Council is pretty significant.
They're the only one beating the informal count, put it that way.
Well, we'll keep looking at these results that come in. By the way, I note you might not be hearing much from Fairfield and Liverpool tonight. As we mentioned a bit earlier, these are being conducted by the AEC, not the Electoral Commission. We're talking about the Australian Election Company. It's a private company that is conducting in Fairfield and Liverpool. That may affect how we bring you results tonight, but I'm sure we'll get the results in eventually. This isn't new with this election. We had similar in 21 as well. I'll circle back to our old friends in Snowy Valleys, right? If I can try.
Snowy
No, Snowy Valleys. We'll try to get those results. John Larder. Okay, I've got an actual information. Here we go. So he's got 92 votes at the moment out of 1,703 counted. That is 0.6 of a quota. He's at 6% of the vote. Now, what I should note of that is that, where is Snowy Monaro? Is it Sutherland? Where is it? No, Snowy Valley. Now you're confusing me, Maggie. Snowy Valley. Snowy Valley is in... I really should have done some research on this, hey, shouldn't I? Snowy Valley
it's down in Eden Monaro region, near
which
Queen
is, give me the region name. Look, wherever Snowy Monaro is, Snowy Valley. Okay, someone
doesn't matter.
I figure out Snowy Valley. Someone talk about something else. I can't. The hell is Snowy Valley?
Liberals are doing not very great in North Sydney. It's a stronghold for them historically, and they've got 31% in Camaragal Ward. I hope I said that correctly. 900 votes counted, and I've also seen someone ask for results in Shoalhaven. Currently, Patricia White is leading 47% of the vote. Gemma Tribe, 34%, and the Greens, 19%. That's 7,000 votes counted out of 85,000.
If we're talking about the mayoral race, isn't that where the Greens are the incumbents, or am I just?
I'm not sure.
I think they are. For them, that is. Okay, what I was going to mention. Forget it. Forget Snowy Valleys. I'm going to come back to that. I do believe they are the incumbents, though. In are they not? Shoalhaven. Yeah, the Greens are the incumbents. They don't have the incumbent mayor running. Amanda Findlay is not recontesting. I'm just going to get up the candidates. Patricia White, as you said, she's from Shoalhaven Independence. That is I believe, a Conservative local party there. Gemma Tribe's from Team Tribe. She's an ex-Liberal. Excuse me. That will be one to watch, and I don't know what that might end up being bad news for the Greens. Maggie, if you can just do me a favour and repeat those Shoalhaven mayoral results.
Yeah, we've got 47% for Patricia White, Gemma Tribe Independent 34%, and for Greens 19%. I just wanted to give a bit of disclaimer. If you want results for any particular council, we're happy to talk about it, just message us in the live chat. And also, the figures at the bottom of the screen, that's for, I believe, City of Sydney. We are yet to receive more than 100 votes for the council results there. But as for the mayoral race in Sydney, looks like Clover Moore's likely to win there. Won't call it yet, but she's definitely the front runner.
Well, she's always been the front runner. That's what happens when you're going for a 6th term. You usually are, hey. Although, to be fair, I mean, we could probably safely call one Clover Moore, one ALP, one... Although they should all probably pick up one. The other will be interesting, whether, you know, Sean Masters gets up for the Libertarians, Yvonne Weldon, the incumbent Yvonne Weldon Independents, who got in at the last election. There's a couple others going on as well, Maggie.
I think we can safely call the City of Sydney mayoral race for Clover Moore. We've just gotten some more votes.
Give us the figures before we switch the results, but give us the...
Clover Moore is at 39.4% of the vote. Distant second, Zan Maxwell for Labor, 18% of the vote. The Greens are at 13% with Sylvie Ellsmore. The Liberals, Lyndon Gannon at 11, Yvonne Weldon at 10, and an assortment of other smaller parties, including the Libertarians, at 4.
But we wouldn't have the preference count at the moment, would we?
Yeah, but it's optional preferential voting. Just can't overtake Clover Moore.
It's tough. I think we can say Clover Moore ahead.
I think we can call it.
We can say she's ahead. It's an early call.
I would be pretty confident at this point. We've got so many votes counted. We've got more than 10%, and she's so easily beating every other candidate.
Well, I'll just note from the last election as well, if we're talking about sheer numbers here, Maggie, and I'll just bring this up for perspective. Look, 120,000 people turned out the last election. We have 10% of that counted at the moment.
That is a pretty significant
it's an early
amount,
call.
but like it's just so hard to climb over that result with optional preferences. I think if you got every single preference, you still might not be able to overtake her because so many of these votes will exhaust. Not to mention,
it's an early call.
Of
I mean, I trust your judgment, but it's an early call.
I mean, Liberal preferences are sure to go to Clover Moore, and if you just add the vote total for the Clover Moore Independents and Liberals together, they have a majority. I just can't see it happening.
Might be right. Give it 10 minutes. Give it 10 minutes. We'll call it.
You should really trust me. I'm the person who calls things around here.
You know, 10 minutes. We'll call it in 10 minutes. If we get next batch of results, we'll see how that goes. But you're probably right. You're probably right. We can at least say on our graphics, Clover Moore is definitely ahead in the Sydney mayoral race. CM ahead there. So we will come back to that, I'm sure. There you go. Looks good at the bottom of your screen, doesn't it? What else?
I've seen someone say in the chat, Port Macquarie Hastings, the mayoral race there. Adam Roberts, independent, definitely leading there, 40% of the vote, followed by Nick Lipovac at 21%. The Greens are also at 21%, Lauren Edwards, and Mark Hornshaw at 18%. I don't know much about the mayoral race, but 7,000 votes counted out of 70,000
is Pinson
possible.
not recontesting? Isn't she the incumbent?
I don't know much about this area, but I'd say Adam Roberts is probably winning here.
There's no Pinson on the ballot, so I think that's her name, Peter Pinson. I think that's it. Independent National. Also, by the way, we'll just note Port Macquarie does have a referendum going on. That wording is as follows. Do you favour a reduction in the number of Port Macquarie Hastings councillors from 9 to 7, consisting of the mayor and 6 councillors? No results in yet at the moment. So we'll come back to that. Lots of questions going on in these local referendums, which are always interesting to watch. You know, we're seeing the consequences. Some of them come in, you know, and we would say that, yeah.
We're just waiting for council results in Sydney at this point to call any of the seats because it's so limited. Okay, there's 200 votes counted, and the Greens are ahead on both figures, but they're 30% behind Clovermore and mayoral race figures, so I don't think they're very accurate. We'll just have to wait.
And
just
Ben,
looking at some other seats. Sorry,
so I was just going to say quickly, Ben Rao, he does some great analysis at the Tally Room. Unfortunately, by the way, his website's down at the moment because too many people are trying to look for it. Thankfully, we're hosted by the great YouTube.com, who would never take this channel down. Please don't take this channel down. Does some great analysis. He might be on Twitter. We'll copy anything he says. He also makes that same point that, like with the Legislative Council, the informal vote includes the below-the-line votes. Makes it a bit annoying, makes it hard to analyse, as he says. But yeah, Ben Rao does some great analysis at the Tally Room. Stuart, sorry Maggie, I'll come back to you in a moment, but Stuart, we have some results. Bass Hill, Canterbury, Bankstown, this is an area where the Libertarians are certainly hopeful.
Yes, with their front runner Elvis. So no, Sig, just he definitely does play up the Elvis thing a lot. You can't blame him.
I would too.
Past life. And I am pretty happy to say he's probably going to get in.
Well, that is. Well, give us the exact totals here at the moment, because we're
okay. So
good chance, and there's no Liberal there. But please go on. So
we've got 3 councillors from 12 candidates. Labor will get at least 1, probably 2. They're sitting at 62%. Then we've got LP at 19.2%, 19.72. Then the Community Voices of Australia are doing okay-ish at 0.46% of the quota, which is 11% of the vote, and then Independent sitting down at 6%. And that, I believe, is pretty ungrouped there. So, yeah, looking at Labor will definitely get 1. They currently probably get 2. They're probably competing right now with Libertarian Party for the 3rd seat there, and I'm happy to call that as Libertarian Party likely for the seat of Bass Ward in Canterbury Bankstown.
So there we go. Libertarian Party is now likely to claim a spot there on City of Canterbury Bankstown Council. We'll wait and see the exact details that come in there. But look, I'm not too surprised by that, especially in the absence of a Liberal, noting 4 groups, 3 spots to fill. But that'll be really interesting to see Elvis Senisic there, a former UAP member, joined the Libertarian Party as when they were the Lib Dems to contest as an upper house candidate. And now very, very, very likely seems he will become a councillor on the Canterbury Bankstown City Council. So we'll keep coming back to that for you. Camden, they're also feeling all right in Camden South Ward. If we can just get that one up, Stuart, the Libertarian Party, that is. I know they're doing all right in the wards that have South in it. Penrith South, they're at 55%. Camden South, they seem to be going okay. I don't have those exact figures, though, if you can get them up in just a moment.
I mean, Camden South is in. We've only got one ward reporting for Camden, that's Camden South. And I wouldn't call it yet. 71 votes.
What's the vote percentage? I don't have the vote percentage.
Votes coming in right now. LP sitting at 40.35%. Then Labor at 35.09%. And then you get into the Independents, who are pretty much... If anyone gets in, this probably means something to you. Cindy Cagney is what the website is showing. Possible. It'll be LP 1, Labor 1, and they can fight for the rest. 3 councillors for that ward. So pretty likely to be Labor 1, Libertarian Party 1, except for the fact that it's like we've got a few dozen candidates. We've got 57 actual votes and then 14 informal. So we're around 20% informal there, so it looks good, but it's way too early to count. The progressive quota they've got right now, it's 15. That's how few votes we've got in Camden City. And we're looking at nothing from the other 2 wards, that only from Camden South. So we've got nothing from Camden North and Camden Central.
Right, we'll keep having a look at that. Clovermore, of course, Clovermore Independent team. She's ahead on Sydney, the Sydney mayoral race, by the way. We'll keep coming back to that. Maggie, you've got some more details for us on something.
Just looking at results in Albury, the group led by Kevin Mack is at 31%. Kevin Mack, quite notable independent, I'm presuming this is the same one. His group is leading with 31%, that'd be 3 councillors. Group led by Carly King, 19%, 1 councillor, probably 2. Group led by Stuart Baker is at 14%. Group led by Jessica Callaghan is at 11%. All of these groups would get a councillor. Labor's at 9%, which they're pretty close to getting a councillor in their own right. And the Greens are at 8%, close to a councillor again, but that's I guess probably a disappointing result for the Greens in Albury. I'm not sure how they fared prior, but we just had Amanda Cohen on earlier. She was Deputy Mayor of Albury, now turned into Greens MLC. And the Greens could seriously not win a single councillor in this area, which would be
should have asked
quite
her about
embarrassing.
it.
I should. There just weren't many votes counted at that point, so it wasn't really
worth it.
Very educated.
True, but we'll come back to that. Maybe she needs to jump back in the local scene. That'll help them. As you say, they're very, very early, and we're not making a call for Albury in the slightest at the moment. I'm just also conscious of the fact, because I know we went straight through the breaks during New South Wales, during the NT coverage. It is approaching 7:55. We'll head to a break in about 3 minutes' time, but just continuing to...
Time to call that, Maggie? Can we call it now? It's been 10 minutes.
Call Clovermore? Yeah. I'm confident that she's winning here.
Have you checked the latest results? Have you...
I'll have to do that right now.
100% sure.
Clicking to check. Just refreshing. 17,000 votes counted now. Still about the same result. Clovermore's re-elected for the City of Sydney mayoral race. This is her 6th term now, I believe.
But it is interesting also, I was just going to say, the Greens are still ahead on that the councillor thing, although the vote hasn't actually changed there, the sheer number of votes. But I'll just bring up those exact numbers again. 38 point... Oh, it's an early call, but you know what? I'll take your judgment. We reckon Clovermore, she will retain the mayoralty, and she will be re-elected as Sydney Lord Mayor. We want to make that call for you now. So there you go. That is a record 6th term for Clovermore, if our call is right. I'm sure it will be, because Maggie Perry's great. But there you go, big call. That's pretty extraordinary, though, that no one has managed to break her dominance yet. I mean, she's been in forever. She's literally been in forever. She has been in for about as long as you or I have been alive.
She's been on longer than that, I'm pretty sure. I've never met her out a mayor of Sydney whose name happens to be Clovermore. Sorry to cut away from Sydney, but I've just seen someone say, who was it? It was Greg Harris on Upper Lachlan Shire. I'm so used to the UK, I'm sorry. Really scattered vote here. Paul Culhane, 13% for councillor. John Seal, 13% also. Rob Cameron, 11%. Libertarian Party candidate at 10%. That's pretty interesting. This is a rather rural area, I take it. So 10%. Pretty scattered among all the other candidates, which are also independents. But this is just yet another area that the Libertarians are probably going to pick up a councillor.
Yeah, looking like a pretty good night for the Libertarians early on, you'd have to say. And look, we'll bring you more results as we come back from the break. It's approaching 7:58 Australian Eastern Standard Time, and you're with us live here on 6 News as we continue our coverage, the only live coverage of the 2024 New South Wales local government elections. We'll be bringing you results right throughout the evening, and again, just repeating that call, we project that early on, but we'll say it, Clovermore will be re-elected Lord Mayor of Sydney for a record 6th term. We've got about a couple of seconds to go, but thank you for watching. Stay with us. More coverage coming up right after the break.
You're watching New South Wales Decides Local Elections 2024.
The Prime Minister gets up and says this, and I'm thinking, does this come from Channel 6 News?
Thanks for having me on your wonderful program.
Of online news site 6 News.
And it's really good. 6 News.
6 News.
One Labor source has told 6 News that the party has no chance of winning, while another believes the party is either way.
Stephen Miles, he was walking just down the road here.
Long time viewer, first time on the show. You can call me anytime.
Of all the stations and the clamouring journalists in Australia, she did the first interview with this kid.
Great story also of how our democracy is being run by high school students.
I think the question everyone wants to know at this point is, will you quit the Labor Party?
Look, when I was crossing the floor, I crossed it knowing that there was going to be the potential expulsion as a consequence.
Live on 6 News, this is New South Wales Decides, Local Elections 2024.
8 o'clock on the dot, Australian Eastern Standard Time. You're still with us live here on 6 News as we continue our special live coverage of the 2024 New South Wales local government elections. Really nice to have you with us for this only full broadcast coverage. And again, just want to repeat that breaking news we brought you late last hour is that 6 News does predict that Clover Moore, the incumbent Mayor of Sydney, she'll be re-elected and serve for a record of 6th term leading the Clover Moore independent team. That team is currently slightly behind the Greens in the councillor races, although there's barely any results counted there yet. But again, our election reporter, Maggie Perry, she's made that call, so we trust her on that, I'm sure. Lots more results. Lots more results coming in throughout the next hour as counting really starts to ramp up. We'll bring you all of those and look a couple of interesting races. The Libertarian Party is going strong in a number of areas. The Greens could be in trouble in Albury and seem to definitely be in trouble in Shoalhaven. And where are the Liberals in some of these places? Well, they're not on the ballots, but in some of the places they're just not winning. So we'll wait and see for all those results. Lots to come in throughout the evening for, of course, the latest headlines happening in as it relates to things that are happening other than the local government elections. We'll go now to the 6 newsroom. Here's Austin Pollock.
Thank you, Leo. We will get back to the New South Wales local government elections shortly, but to what else is making the news right now. And a mother of 2 boys who were discovered deceased in a Blue Mountains home has been charged with 2 counts of murder. Emergency services responded to a residence in Falcon Bridge on Tuesday after concerns were raised about the welfare of a woman and 2 children. The boys, aged 11 and 9, were reportedly found by their father at the home in Falcon Bridge on the same day. New South Wales Police have said that the boy's 42-year-old mother was also found at the scene with stab wounds and was transported to hospital in a critical but stable condition. After being discharged from the hospital on Friday, she was taken to Parramatta Police Station and charged with 2 counts of murder related to domestic violence, according to police. A man has died after a light plane crash southeast of Bendigo in central Victoria. Police say the pilot, the aircraft's sole occupant, died in Reddersdale yesterday afternoon. It's believed he was flying over private property when the plane crashed at about 12:30 p.m. He died at the scene. One witness has told the ABC that he drove to the crash site and saw a massive ball of flames and realised the plane had exploded on impact. Authorities will now prepare a report for the coroner. The Greens have opposed the federal government's proposed social media ban for teenagers under a certain age. South Australian Senator Sarah Hanson-Young has described the move as a knee-jerk policy. Here's some of what she told 6 News.
Obviously, we're concerned about how these social media platforms are continuing to be in many ways unsafe spaces for not just young people though, Leo, like for a lot of people. And these big tech companies have gotten away for far too long of self-regulation or even no regulation. And, they feed on people's private data, they sell it to advertisers, they target people with pretty manipulative algorithms. All of this is secret. Like, there's a lot of problems with how the big social media giants work. But we are concerned that rather than tackling those issues, a ban on teenagers being able to access social media seems, frankly, the wrong way to go. We're worried about the impact that this will have on young people themselves, and locking them out of what is clearly an important part now of community and society. And rather than just banning people, we should be making those platforms safer, making them take responsibility, regulating them, and protecting young people from the insidious nature of their business model. So that's the algorithms that are manipulative, the targeting of advertising, and the real privacy intrusion that these big social media giants have.
And that is 6 News for now. I'll be back with you next hour. We'll have all the latest headlines for you coming up then. For now, though, we're going to head back to Leo Puglisi in 6 News headquarters as we continue our coverage as New South Wales decides in the local elections.
You're watching New South Wales Decides Local Elections 2024.
Back with us live here on 6 News, and you saw just before the break we did call that Clover Moore will be re-elected Lord Mayor of Sydney for a record 6th term. And look, I was always confident in Maggie Perry's call, but I think we can further attest to that now because we've just had a bunch more votes in. We're now up to 30,000 votes, and her 38 to 40% is still holding, right? Clover Moore re-elected record 6th term. We'll see how many of her team gets in, though, for the Clover Moore independent team. The Greens ahead in the very, very, very early counting for the council race there. But keep your comments coming and let us know where you're watching from, any results you want us to look at, any specific LGAs, any wards, any mayoral races, any referendums, any details, any breaking news. Please let us know. We really do want to hear from you. There's a lot to cover, so give us all the latest there. Hey, look, Amanda Conn just popped up on the SMH timeline. Thank you, Anthony Seagart. She did speak on 6 News about the Better Council campaign. She did speak about that. Campbelltown, yeah, please. Yes, I think we should go over Campbelltown because, sorry to interrupt, I was just going to say very quickly, as I believe the Liberals are not on the ballot there.
Yep, the Liberals aren't on the ballot. They had 4 councillors last time, so that is a big dash. There's 15 councillors total. It's elected entirely proportionally. Very interesting count here. I just have to pull it up. Labor at 42%. We've got 2,300 votes counted, by the way, out of probably about 100,000, so we've got 2% counted. Labor at 42% of the vote. That'll let them 6, maybe even 7 councillors out of 15. Community First, totally independent, is at 17%. That's 2, maybe 3 councillors. The Community Voice group has currently gotten 13%, 2 councillors. The Greens are at 12%, 2 councillors. And Sustainable Australia Party is at 11%. Would name them also 2 councillors in this area. Animal Justice which has an incumbent councillor in this area, by the way, far off reaching.
Animal justice will lose, and you know why they're going to lose is because they don't have an above the line box. I don't know how they've done it. They have completely stuffed their nominations, so they're one short of an above the line box, but they also have one ungrouped candidate. It's so bizarre. I don't know how they've managed to stuff it like this, but he's gone. I think their councillor already conceded once the nominations were done that there was no chance he could get back in, and he was very lucky to last time anyway, if my memory is right here. But I think you can rule out animal justice there. Whether they will get somewhere else, I believe that's their only New South Wales councillor as well. So whether that will get somewhere else, we'll have to wait and see. They also had someone in. They had two in Victoria in 2020, Alpine and Greater Bendigo. The Alpine councillor later resigned from council, but they do still have one in Greater Bendigo there. So they will still be represented on local government somewhere in the country, no matter how the results go tonight. But I would not be. I would be a bit worried if I was the Animal Justice Party at the moment. Early days, I know, but still, it's not looking the best at the moment.
I've just seen some comment why we have 00000 at the bottom of the screen. That's for the amount of councillors in the city of Sydney that we've called right now. Super early days. For the councillor results, the mayoral results have about 30,000 votes counted, I believe, if I can recall that. But only 500 for the councillor results. So we haven't called any seats yet. The Greens are well ahead of Clover Moore's team, which is completely, starkly different to the mayoral results. So just waiting.
And I think the ABC, and by the ABC I mean Nick McLaren of the ABC in Illawarra has just tweeted, but I would assume that I don't have the Wollongong results up at the moment. We should probably check Wollongong. But in the mayoral race there, the Lord mayoral race, Tania Brown of Labor will win that. Now the incumbent is not recontesting any independents, so it is looking like Labor will win the mayoralty in Wollongong. Labor, so they will gain that.
It's actually, I think we should wait on Wollongong because.
Oh wait, but just in terms of your heads at the moment, I was just going to say what he's got for Illawarra is that Labor's ahead in Wollongong. Is that an independent, Chris Homer is ahead in Shell Harbour, and Patricia White of Shoalhaven Independents is leading the Greens still in Shoalhaven, as you mentioned before, Maggie. But you're right, no 6 News call yet. That's your department. I'm not making that call yet, but we'll keep an eye out on those 3 Illawarra LGAs.
I was just going to start with Bayside results. I've seen a lot. I'm just going over so many results. Sorry, but there's dozens, more than 100 councils in New South Wales, I believe, and also the reason why we're not doing overall council seats for every council is we just don't have the functions for that. We don't have anything to go over every single council and call every single seat. But
one day we will.
One day. But in Bayside, Ward 1, it looks like Labor 2 councillors with 50% of the vote. The Liberals, 1 councillor, 25%, and for Greens, 1 councillor with 14% of the vote. In Ward 4, it'll be Labor with 1 seat, 34% of the vote. The Liberals with 1 seat, 27%. And Independent, who was that? Liz Barlow is likely to net a seat in Ward 4. I'll just go over the council totals for the rest of them. It looks like it'll be 2 Libs, 2 Labor, 1 Green, and 2 Greens for the rest of it.
I'll let you get to that, Maggie. But Stuart, you've got no, you're all good. Stuart, you've got an interesting point as we continue this Penrith South Ward count as it relates to the Libertarians. We're like, well, there's 3 spots up for grabs. Are they going to get that last one? Something might have just changed. Talk to us. Muted. It had to happen. It had to happen. At one point during the night, it had to happen. And it wasn't me. Still muted. Still muted.
There we go. Well, I'm back now. Had to happen, and it was.
It did.
Sorry, as
At least it wasn't me. Yet.
As I was trying to say, 5 councillors from 15 candidates in City of Penrith in South Ward. The LP might get 2.
Is it 5? Oh, I thought it was 3. I'm an idiot. Is it 5 or is it 3? How many wards do they
5.
have?
Elected positions, there are 5 councils to be elected from 15 candidates. Either the commission's wrong or you're wrong, and I'm going to go with the commission being correct.
I'll take your word for it.
And also Wikipedia.
I'll take your word. No, you're right. It's 5 wards. Look, they're not all, forgive me, they're not all consistent. There's a lot of Sydney LGAs that are 3-member for 5 councillors. 3 wards, sorry. So this is 3 wards, 5 councillors in each, not 5 wards, 3 councillors in each. Forgive me, that makes a lot more sense now. And the Libertarian Party could win 2 of those 5 in South Ward, is what we're getting at here. Am I right?
Yes, so I want to call 2. Oh, sorry, no. I want to call 1, likely 2. I'm happy to call Vanessa Polak, who was their lead candidate. She'll definitely get in. Figures we've got the LP leading 35.25%. Then the independent incumbents, which is split between them, 30.48%. That's split between a few different candidates. We don't have the figures for individual candidates there. And then Labor at 34.27%. Looking at the figures we've got there, so Karen McCowan will retain her seat in Penrith South, I believe. Mark Davies is he running as independent? If not, he's out.
I'll figure that one out. Could I just, sorry to interrupt, something we haven't actually spoken about all night is Northern Beaches. Now, Northern Beaches is usually a good area for the Liberals, right? They're not on the ballot, so they're completely screwed. And I want to point out, thank you to Garrigle Ange on Twitter, who pointed out Northern Beaches Forest Ward, and as it stands, with 10,000 votes counted at the moment, there's only 2 groups, the Greens and Your Northern Beaches. Your Northern Beaches has 75% of the vote in that ward. Granted, only 2 candidates, but when we're talking about where is this Liberal vote flowing when the Liberals aren't on the ballot, Your Northern Beaches is doing very well in Forest Ward at the moment. So thank you again to Garrigle Ange on Twitter for pointing that one out. We'll come back to Northern Beaches later in the night. Either one of you. Maggie?
Sorry, I couldn't tell. Mid-Coast, I've just seen someone say, pretty please, Mid-Coast. Well, obviously 100,000 people in Mid-Coast, just north of Newcastle, and it's very interesting. Libertarians are at 2, probably 3 council seats in this area. They're first place, by the way, in this by quite the margin. It's very impressive. Labor, 16%, 2 council seats. Looks like Jeremy Miller, 12%, his group, 1 councillor. Allan Tickle's group, also with 12%, will get 1 councillor. And Peter Howard's seat group will get 1 councillor. And the Greens will finish that off with 1 council seat in Mid-Coast.
Right, there you go. Huge night for the Libertarian Party already. And Kirsty Miller on Twitter is bringing us some of the figures from Broken Hill with... I'm happy to call this as well, based on her call as well. Tom Kennedy, who we spoke to earlier, leading for a better Broken Hill. He has 67.79% of the vote at the moment. Not many, now, there's 1.9 thousand votes counted at the moment, but I believe there's only like 12,000 electors in the whole of Broken Hill. So we can safely say, under other, Tom Kennedy is re-elected Mayor of Broken Hill. So that is the result. Then we spoke to him last night. Was great to chat with him, and he will be re-elected to a 2nd term after defeating the exact same candidates as last time. Dave Gallagher, an independent with Team Broken Hill, and the ALP's Daria Turley. Tom Kennedy, he is re-elected as Mayor of Broken Hill in far west New South Wales. Anyway, that's probably not the most exciting result of the night. Maybe there's some others. Keep your comments coming in. Let us know what you think. Have your say using that hashtag SIXNewsAU. Wherever you're watching from tonight, give us your comments. Maggie?
33,000 votes counted in Sydney mayoral race. Of course, we've already called this for Clovermore, but it's, just nice to update on the figures right now. Clovermore independent team at 38% of the vote. Obviously, Clovermore's the candidate there. Labor's Zan Maxwell at 18% of the vote. The Greens 14% with Sylvie Ellsmore. Lyndon Gannon for the Liberals at 10%. Yvonne Weldon at 11%. An assortment of other parties, including the Libertarians, together probably around 8%. The Libertarians themselves around 3%. Yeah, sorry, continue.
No, sorry, I'm sorry. I just want to mention this before I forget it. I just got a comment. Paul on Twitter, he mentions the referendum for Central Coast. That is the one that is talking about whether to change the councillor numbers. As it quotes, one of the earliest results came in. It's 490 at the moment. Yes and no split, 50-50 at the moment. So that'll be one to watch. 350,000 people represented by one council there on the Central Coast Council.
Feel free to drop any local government areas or wards in the live chat. We're always checking to see what councils we should cover, what areas you want us to look at. I see someone has talked about the Newcastle local government area. I'll just head over to that, the mayoral race. It looks like Labor's Nuatali Nelms is at 34%, basically neck and neck with Ross Kerridge at 31% for the mayoral race. That's interesting. The Greens are also at 17% and the Liberals at 12%. That will actually be one to watch. I'll just see how the council election is going in Newcastle. Give me 1 second. We're getting results in all 4 of the wards. Ward 1... I'll just look at Ward 2 first. 3 councillors, 1 will go to the Libs, 1 to the Greens and 1 to Labor. Ward 3, it looks like it'll be 1 to Greens, 1 to Labor and 1 to Mark Brooker, Independent. Ward 4, much more competitive. Labor's at 1, maybe 2 council seats, 43% of the vote. Liberals at 1 council, and the last seat is either between the second Labor, the Greens, or Independent Talia Kelso. Ward 1, Greens, Labor, and it seems Independent Ross Kerridge. His group,
and he's with the Our Newcastle group, which is running in all wards at the moment. He, I think we mentioned a couple hours ago, was a significant possible challenger, but please go on.
So, if I recall, that should be 5 Labor, 4 Greens, and 3 Liberals in Newcastle.
We'll come back to that. Zav Curry on Twitter asked an hour ago, would have some coverage of the mayoral race in Hunters Hill. Well, I'll come back to that promise now, and we'll just look at those results. Only 2 candidates at the moment, incumbent Liberal Zach Miles, and then Team Ross's Ross Williams. As it stands, we have 5,000 votes in, 62% of the vote Miles' way. Again, only a 2-horse race there. Miles is looking pretty strong as the votes come in. Again, only 2 candidates there for you. But Ross Williams, and look, there's really Hunters Hill, with all respect to the people in Hunters Hill, Zav Curry, you might be one of them. It's a pretty boring election at the moment. You've got 3 real groups here. Team Ross in 1 ward, you've got Hunters Hill Independents in another ward, and you've got the Liberal Party in 2 wards. It's a bit boring at the moment, but maybe you like it that way. I don't know. We like the more interesting results. Speaking of interesting results, Stuart, do you have anything new for us as it stands on literally anything?
Yeah, so the reason no one's heard from me for the last, 10-ish minutes is I've been going over a lot of the Libertarian Party candidates, and we've got some interesting figures here. I'm seeing of the last one. Yeah, they're probably out there. Okay, cool. So what we've got now is Lata is out. He was the incumbent in Snowy Valleys. He will probably lose his seat.
That's an early call, but please go on.
Hang on, let me just. Okay, I'll go to the figures. If you're going to contest that, I'll get the figures for you.
No, I might agree, but I just haven't checked because I thought I'd go insane if I kept trying to check bloody Snowy Valley, Monero, whatever it's called.
It's been a bit since they've had any reported figures, so it's still pretty much the same. True. I'm just trying to find those figures now for you. I made a mistake that you did, and I clicked on something that wasn't actually. And
for what it's worth, by the way, the current leader in Snowy Valleys, so there is one grouped, but the rest are all ungrouped. The current leader is an ungrouped candidate, Julia Ham. She's an incumbent. She's an independent Liberal. She has 28% of the vote, yeah, so she is currently the leader by a long shot. I don't know whether it'll be a preference thing. Of course, it's all about getting quotas here, but it all being below the line is an interesting factor.
I won't call Lat out. I'll say he's likely out. So, hedge our bets there. I want to say likely out.
That will be an interesting race if the one incumbent loses and they get in everywhere else, but maybe they just don't like party rate registrations out there. Maybe
I strongly disagree. It looks like he's set for a council seat, just on the numbers. Even if he's 0.6 of a quota, he should be elected. Not guaranteed, but he's leading.
No calls yet at the moment. And look, we say only 4,000 in, smaller population, of course.
I'm saying likely out, and Maggie's saying likely in.
Right now, he would be elected on these figures. So.
Excuse
me. You're the expert for that, so I'll trust your word like you trust mine. That's the chain of command.
We'll see what happens with John Larder at the moment.
I haven't checked.
I'll note also the results haven't changed in like half an hour anyway there, so give or take.
We don't have anything out of Liverpool, obviously, because that's its own separate thing. But apart from that, Penrith, I've got them guaranteed 1, likely 2. Mid Coast, as Medic said, guaranteed 2, likely 3. Bass Hill, likely 1. Camden South, guaranteed 1, possible 2. So going off the ones that I'm happy to... Wing Caribbean, possibly 1. Blue Mountains, 2, likely out. So based on the figures I've got there, you've got guaranteed 4, and then happy to call likely another 4. So guaranteed 4, likely 4.
Can I just say I'm really interested in Wing Caribbean. That's the one I was referencing earlier, Stuart. You've got a bunch of tickets there. You've got an entirely independent Liberal ticket. And I also have read the Southern Highlands branch of the Nationals is supporting one of the tickets, Wing Caribbean First, which includes some Nationals members apparently. Again, the National Party does not formally endorse for local elections, but
60 candidates, 9 councillors. Jeez.
Well, at least it's groups. At least it's not. Imagine counting the below the lines for that.
And 40,000 voters. That's
Actually, there's no one group, so I don't know why anyone would vote below the line. But yeah, go on.
So fine. Well, they might get fine. I call it that they might get in there. That's up in the air. But I'm happy to say, just to get Maggie to check my figures. Penrith South guaranteed 1, likely 2. Mid Coast guaranteed 2, likely 3, as Maggie called it. Camden South guaranteed 1, possible 2. Bass Hill likely 1. Wing Caribbean possibly 1. Snowy Valley likely out.
So does anyone have some? Well, Snowy Valley likely that's your call. Snowy Valley likely in is Maggie's call. Maggie, sorry, go
on. We've got some first figures in Tweedshire, which is one you've been interested in, Leo. I know. Braden Smith, Greens candidate for Currumbin, just north in Queensland, has been campaigning here for Nollifer for Greens candidate. Tweedshire, I'll just look. Looks like Liberals, 2 councillors here, 30% of a vote, 7 councillors total. Labor, 1, maybe 2. Greens, pretty solidly on 1. And I guess the last seat would go to independent Chris Cherry. So that's Tweedshire. Leah, I hope you don't mind if I were to go over all the many, many wards that people have been talking about in the chat. It might take a while, but I want to go over every single one of them.
Please do.
All right, it looks like in Blacktown, there's 5 different wards. All of these wards here. Ward 1, 3 councillors, 2 to Liberals, 1 to Labor. In Ward 2, it'll be really close, 1 for Liberals, 1 for Labor, and the last seat is neck and neck between the Greens, Liberals and Labor. In Ward 3, that's interesting. Labor 2, Labor 1, Liberals 1, and the last seat between Labor and Animal Justice, who has 19% of the vote in this ward. That's interesting.
Very interesting for AJP, because we know we're talking about their chances. Can I just, I'll let you continue in a moment. I just want to quickly jump in with something Ben Rowie mentioned on Twitter regarding Parramatta. And he notes it's hard to say how well they'll do because it seems they have a lot of below-the-line votes. But as it stands, he says it's looking like for Parramatta City Council, a progressive majority with OLC, our local community, wiped out there. So that is what he is saying.
Where was that, sorry?
That is in Parramatta. Ben Rowie is saying progressive majority with OLC wiped out in Parramatta based on some of the early results. No,
they're doing well in Cumberland.
But we'll see.
They
are doing well in Cumberland. Well, yeah, Steve Christo is probably the figurehead of OLC, even though he's not the founder or anything. You know, Paul Garrett and all that. Maggie, I'll let you continue. I just did want to quickly mention that.
All right. Ward 4, 2 Labor, 1 Liberal. Ward 5 for Blacktown, 2 Labor, 1 Liberal. I'm not sure what the total figures are. I think that's maybe something 7 Labor, 2 Greens. I don't even know if the Greens are in that. 2 Greens and 6 Liberal. I'm not sure. Something around those lines. What else? Someone says Norfolk Island. I wish. Cumberland, Granville Ward. I'll go over to that. 3 councillors. Looks like 1 for our local community, who are in first place, 1 for the Liberals and 1 for Labor. Pittwater would be Pittwater Ward within Northern Beaches, 3 councillors, 1 for Mandeep Singh ungrouped independent, 1 for your Northern Beaches and 1 for Greens. Wyong Ward, I believe that's in Central Coast. That would be 3 councillors, 1 for the Liberals, 1 for Kyla Daniels Independent, and 1 for Labor. In Ryde, we've got 3 wards. I'm saying so much. There's so many of these wards that people are wanting me to check. It looks like 2 Liberals, 1 Labor, and 1 Green in Central Ward. In East Ward, 2 Liberals, 1 Labor, 1 for Roy Maggio in East Ward, and in West Ward, it'll be 2 Liberals, 1 Labor, and 1 for Independent Karen Alden. Kurinjai, oh my god, there's so many, Leo. So many.
Well, skip Kurinjai, boring, all independent.
I'll just skip it. I'll just skip Kurinjai. Cumberland,
Get some parties there, or shut up, you know. It's too boring. Sorry to Kurinjai residents, but
I'm sorry. And Rockdale, I think that's the last one.
Stuart, could you just, because I literally do not have a piece of paper at the moment. How many calls are we making for libertarians at the moment? And I mean, just yes.
I've got 4.
4 yeses. Likelies then.
Okay. I'm gonna need to confer with Maggie, and I'll get back to you. I've got possibly 5 likelies. Definitely, I'm gonna call 4 guaranteed. Just get Maggie to check my figures for me, and we'll get back to you on that then. Just give us some time in the back end.
No worries. So we'll keep having a look at that. Mid-Coast, again, is just an extraordinary race for them. It's not very often you guys see the Libertarian Party at the top of the table for results, right? It's unusual, to say the least, but that is what we're seeing at Mid-Coast Council at the moment, where we know the National Party was helping out there. So I'm just looking at some of these figures as it stands, Bass Hill likely, Camden South likely 2, guaranteed 1, Penrith likely 2, guaranteed 1, Wingecarribee likely possibly 1, Snowy Valley, look, we're getting 50-50 opinions here, so we'll say
that's the figures I've got. It'll depend on what Maggie's got the final call. That's the figures that I've got, and once we get those, we'll hear back from her. In the meantime, Paul Garrard will probably going to retain his seat from the figures that I've got. He's coming in second place.
That's in Cumberland.
Yeah, he's in one of the Cumberlands. I think he is in South Granville, from memory. I could be wrong.
I think
I'm right.
You're right.
Cool.
I think you're right there.
I am right.
Good stuff. We'll just keep focusing
don't have
on
enough figures for all.
No, go ahead.
We've got likely going to retain one in. They're probably going to retain in Regent's Park. Helen Hughes is ahead there. Things are not looking great for them actually in Cumberland. I'm not as confident based off those figures. They're not running race.
I'll just note as well, the fact is, and like in Parramatta, right, the Liberal Party did not endorse in Cumberland last election, but they are now. So they've returned to endorsing there. And the OLC had gains when they didn't endorse, and they might lose when they do. I note the councils they are contesting are Canada Bay. Sorry, they're not contesting Canada Bay. Excuse me. They're contesting Cumberland. They're contesting Parramatta. They're contesting a couple others. They're not contesting Canada Bay though, and that's after the incumbent mayor got sacked amid a corruption investigation, and he's just not back at the moment.
Looking at the numbers we have here, they might get the 2 councillors in Cumberland. They might drop them. Chris Drew retains, Garrard retains. The third one they've got is they might get a second one in Granville. That'll probably be a fight between them and Labor, potentially there for the final seats, but potentially just 2, Garrard and Chris Drew, the leader and the quote-unquote leader. And I'll let viewers decide which one is which.
We'll let those viewers decide. I'm just looking at a couple other races. And, guys, I think we might have a look at Northern Beaches soon as well and how your Northern Beaches is going there. I'd really love to take a look at that result. We'll come back to that in a moment, though. Anyone got the AFL score? I haven't checked. Oh, there we go. 42-31 GWS. All right, we'll come back to that one as well. Yeah.
You and your footy, Leo.
Me and my footy, yes.
I'll give us some calls for City of Sydney councillors. Definitely 2 for Clovermore Independent team, 1 for the Greens, 1 for Labor. That gives us some numbers at the bottom.
Nothing called for the Liberals yet, though?
They're probably going to get there. Yeah, they're probably going to get there, but we just don't
Do we want
really
to
have
give
any...
them? I mean, it seems unlikely they wouldn't, surely.
That's not really the logic you go for when you're calling seats, Leo.
Well, it's my logic. Okay, I'll just repeat that. Yeah, 2 for Clovermore.
That's why you don't call the seats, Leo.
1 for the Greens and the Liberals likely, but we won't give them one yet. And that'll give Clovermore at least 3 councillors on a council of... How many seats are there? 9?
Yeah, just 9 for the entire City of Sydney, which is... interesting. Campbelltown has 6 more than that.
Although I think Campbelltown's got a much larger population. It's weird. It's nothing like Greater Brisbane with their, practically a state government.
1 million people or something.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, how weird is Brisbane City Council, right? Like you look at, you look at the single member wards, and you look at all that, and you can walk down the street and you can see Braden Smith campaigning. How weird is that? Anyway.
Well, I was just going to say, Brisbane City Council, may I remind you of when you called for Walter Taylor Ward? This is why I call the seats. Anyways, I should bring up some results. Oh, I forgot. I remember what I was going to say. The Libertarian Party, I've been noticing in Europe that right-wing parties like National Rally or the Alternative for Germany or the Sweden Democrats have really risen to power, risen into government and a lot of this is on the backbone of a really young vote, and a lot of that is one off social media. If the Libertarians were to win this many councillors and, start to get a presence, and if they started to really home in on their social media game, I really think that they could become a national presence. Do you agree, Leo? And do you agree, Stuart?
I mean, look, given the way One Nation's trending at the moment, and by trending, I mean trending badly, right? They could potentially not win a Queensland state seat. Malcolm Roberts could lose, and Pauline Hanson, I mean, who knows, she might retire eventually at the end of her term in 2028. The Libertarian Party, I mean, this is undoubtedly a good night for them. I think it now is a question of how good could it get for them. And by the way, I'll just note something that we were talking about how One Nation doesn't endorse UKIP, UK Independence Party, and yes, I know England local councils are arguably more important, and they don't have a state government, all that. But UKIP, they had some pretty good success in some areas in local council, and maybe that is a reason for One Nation to do it. But maybe too late for them, and the Libertarian Party to going in with it, and it's working for the Libertarian Party tonight. It is very clearly working for the Libertarian Party in terms of gaining that name recognition, and we'll wait and see on all the results. But we can guarantee you the Libertarian Party will win at least 4 seats. They will likely win another 5, could very well win more, but these are just the ones we're looking at.
Double digits, anyone?
I reckon they could get to 10, absolutely. 10 would be a fantastic night for the Libertarian Party.
Do you want to get through your Northern Beaches figures?
Yes, let's absolutely go through Northern Beaches. Now, the Liberals are only on the ballot in 1 ward, but that's ungrouped, that's below the line, and that doesn't have the word Liberal on there. So really, we can say, give or take, they're not actually on the ballot. Now,
these are some good figures
for Northern Beaches.
I'll go bottom up for you for some reason. Pittwater will be probably one Northern Beaches, 1 Greens, and then
one. I was just going to say, for that ungrouped, Hold on a second. That ungrouped is the Liberal. Mandeep Singh, he is that one Liberal. And he is ungrouped, and he has 37% of the vote. He has the highest vote at the moment as an ungrouped candidate, as the sole Liberal, as the one hope the Northern Beaches Liberals have. And he's winning. So
we've got...
He's doing it Bradbury. He's doing it Bradbury here.
So Northern Beaches, Pittwater, we've got 1 Greens, 1 Backyard, and then 1 supposed Liberal. What are we calling it? Independent Liberal? How are we calling it?
I think, and look, this is probably a bad example to use. I believe the local Liberal MP at the time, Rory Amon, just before the charges happened, I believe he did name him as an endorsed Liberal, even though Liberal isn't on the ballot, and he's also a Liberal member. So we can call him a Liberal candidate, not just independent Liberal. He is a Liberal candidate here, based on the words of Rory Amon a couple of weeks ago, and some other reports we've had. So just Mandeep Singh is a Liberal, despite what the ballot will tell you. He is a Liberal. I don't think he'd be he'd admit that as well. He's a Liberal. But please go on.
Narrabeen, Northern Beaches will get 1 at least. Labor. See, the problem is we get the independents, and that's where you get iffy, because it's got 3 independents there, but you don't know who's gotten what figures. But there's at least 1 Northern Beaches there. They've got 1.33 quota, a third of the vote. Then you've got Labor getting 15%, which is 0.6 of the quota, and independents getting 51.7%. But the question is, how does that divide it? And we don't know how it's going to be divided yet. If we move on then to Manly, it's where you're looking at... Leah, what's GFM? I haven't any focus on Northern Beach.
Yeah, good for Manly.
Who is GFM?
Good for Manly.
Okay, good for Manly. They'll get 1 in Manly.
And that's an incumbent retain there, so they only contest Manly ward, and I'm not too surprised about that, but that is a retain for them there.
And then your Northern Beaches gets...
Sorry, I was just going to say, I just can't stop thinking about Mandeep Singh here. the fact he looks like he's probably going to win as an ungrouped candidate here is remarkable. And it helps that the entirety of the Northern Beaches Liberals would be putting their resources into one guy, right? But we'll wait and see on that. I think we can say he's likely to win, though. Anything else, Stuart? And then we'll go back to Maggie.
The second Manly seat goes to your Northern Beaches, and then the last one we fought over by Greens, Labor, and Northern Beaches. So the third seat's up in the air there. French's Forest, it'll be 2 Northern Beaches, 1 Greens, based on the figures we've got there, and then Curl, 2 Northern Beaches and 1 Green, likely. So your Northern Beaches will probably have a majority.
Yep, that is interesting. And we note, by the way, your Northern Beaches, they had a plurality. They lost that when one of them defected to the Liberals. He now can't recontest because of that. And now your Northern Beaches is on track for a full majority there. Maggie, you got any results anywhere for us?
Well, I was just thinking that there's been one place that we've completely missed. It's quite a big council too. It's the Inner West. There's some pretty fierce... True. I don't know how we haven't looked at it this entire time, but there's obviously some important results. It's really important for the Greens. I'll just look. Ashfield Wood, Greens 1, Labor 1, maybe 2, and the Liberals maybe 1. Balmain Ward used to be mine, I guess. Labor 2, Greens 1. In Leichhardt, Labor 1, Greens 1, Liberal 1. In Marrickville, Labor 1, Greens 1, and Independent Victor Macri at 1. And lastly, in Stanmore, Labor 1 and the Greens 2. So that should be very interesting. I haven't exactly tallied that in my head yet, but just trying to think, that's probably something like 6 Greens, 6 Labor, 1 Liberal and 2 or so for the Independents.
Yeah, that will be interesting to see. I note the Liberals didn't endorse last time. No independent Liberals were elected then. We'll keep a close eye out on the Inner West for you at home. Now, again, another race you're not able to really follow at the moment is, there's 2. There's Liverpool and there's Fairfield. They're conducted by a private company. It's a lot harder to find these results while we're doing brief searches, so forgive us. We don't have any results. My personal prediction was Frank Carbone will be re-elected as as Mayor of Fairfield. I've checked no results, but I'm presuming that's correct. And I reckon the Carbone-Lee alliance should get another majority on council there. We'll wait and see for that. And of course, how that plays into the Western Sydney community, formerly Di Lee and Frank Carbone network at the next federal election. We'll wait and see very closely for those results. I just want to quickly circle back before I get back to you, Maggie, just to Albury, because we were talking about it earlier and we were seeing, how's it going to go in Mendicon's old stomping ground. We have 10,000 votes in at the moment. The Greens are back on track. They're at 11% of the vote, and with that's a quota. So the Greens should get in Albury, retain one of their seats if these numbers last. I note the incumbent Albury councillor for the Greens is running second on the ticket, and so they're probably going to have a new council. I doubt they'd be able to get 2 in, but again, it's a wait and see thing. But again, we'll watch very closely for those results in Albury. So a bit of panic earlier, but looks like no reason to be too worried for the Albury Liberals at the moment. Would you say, Maggie? Albury Greens.
Greens. Yeah, I think they should be fine for a councillor. About 25% of the votes counted in Albury. Independent group led by Kevin Mack. Let me just check his credentials. I really recognise the name. You know what? Albury councillor. That's Albury councillor. That's all I know. But that's gotten 2 or 3 councillors. Labor's got 1. Independent group for Stuart Baker's got 1. Independent group for Kylie King's got 1, maybe 2, and the Greens are on 1. Jessica Callahan's got 1, and Alice Glashan has got 1 seat in Albury, I believe. So the Greens are on track there, but I doubt they'll be able to get 2. Their councillor will lose election. And just checking in on Campbelltown again, Sustainable Australia is still in a very good position. They've got 11% of the vote. I'm not sure. They didn't contest last election. I don't know what this is. Maybe Liberals endorsing them here. That actually makes a lot of sense.
I'm not sure. But speaking of where the Liberals are endorsing, Cessnock. We ran a story on this at localelections.com.au in Cessnock, right? Where there's three main groups, right? You've got Labor, the Greens, and Cessnock Independents. One of the Liberal councillors actually endorsed Labor for this formally in all 4 wards, plus the mayoral race. As it stands, however, with 20,000 votes in, Cessnock Independents' Daniel Watton is ahead. He has 49.7% of first preferences, followed by the ALP at 40% and the Greens at 10%. So even with a Liberal endorsement, Labor could very well lose Cessnock mayoralty, and it seems like that could also mean they lose some of their other councillor spots. I don't have the full results yet. Stuart or Maggie might be able to bring up for wards A, B, C and D on Cessnock City Council, but will be interesting looking at Cessnock Independents and and how they go. We will watch very closely for that. Stay connected, localelections.com.au.
Yep, okay, I'll just go through Cessnock. That mayoral race is very close, with preferences. Labor's pretty tied with the independent, but I'll just go through the wards. In Ward A, 2 for an independent group led by Jessica Judd, 1 for Labor. I'm keeping these in my mind so that I can recall the total numbers later. 1 for Quinton King, Quinton King, I believe, was a One Nation or legalised cannabis candidate, actually, in previous election. I'm not sure, but that's an interesting result if they win a seat. I'm not sure which party that is. Quinton King, Chris Madden for Labor, and an independent group led by Sarah Pascoe in Ward B. They've each won a councillor. In Ward C, Labor's won 2, and independent Daniel Watton has gotten 1, his group, although I think he might win mayor. And in Ward D is a ward I've been looking at. Labor's gotten 1, likely 2. Independent Suzanne Dixon's got 1. And the last councillor is between Labor and Animal Justice, who have Victoria Davies. She's a very strong local candidate. She's gotten a really big percentage for Animal Justice in Cessnock before, 8% at a state election. She might lose this. I really expected her to win here, but that should be about even for Labor and Independents in Cessnock, something like 6 to 6.
So I was just going to say, if we're looking at where Animal Justice could potentially win here, Cessnock D Ward, that's it.
Yeah, Cessnock D Ward. And I think there was another area that I was thinking of, but I've forgotten the name, where they're doing pretty well in, but...
we want to go to Stuart now because it's something we were talking about right before we started our coverage in Hawkesbury, right? Hawkesbury is just no mayoral, just 1 undivided council. Now, what's notable here is that the Small Business Party, which used to have, a Sydney councillor, used to contest state elections, right? It actually was registered but didn't contest the state election last year in New South Wales. They've got 1 guy left in Hawkesbury. How's he going?
He will retain probably. Eddie Dogmagasi, I've probably butchered that. Currently, he's sitting, luckily retained, probably. Is it his wife running or is it his daughter? I can't remember.
It's a relative. Let's just say relative and move on.
Okay. Liberals, good news for them. They will get 3, probably. 3, maybe a 4th. We'll see. Shooters will have 1, probably 2.
Right. We'll be.
They currently have 1.
Will be interesting seeing that there because if he didn't win this, you'd think this the Small Business Party would be pretty much dead in the water.
You said they would be.
Well, they practically already are. Look at their Facebook page. They're calling them they're calling him, Eddie, an independent. He's not. He's at the registered party. He's not an independent. But I don't know.
I don't think people call Pocock independent. Let's
not go there. Look,
that's a very different case.
It's enough about David Pocock, Senator David Pocock, for one night. But We'll closely watch Hawkesbury for you, and also Cessnock. Let us know, of course, any results you want in. I'm conscious of the fact we're approaching top of the hour in about 5-ish minutes, but still lots to get through here. And there's a live score, by the way. Is that half time? Roman. Good stuff. Giants can't lose from here, surely. Anyway.
And now they've lost.
Yeah. Where else is interesting? Surely there's an interesting council.
I'm just going to go through the shooter's seat.
Let me just check Wollongong. We don't have a preference count at the moment, but on primary, Labor has 40% of the vote. You have the Greens at 26. You have Ryan Morris at 16. You have Independent SAP, Independent Sustainable Australia's Andrew Anthony, and then you have another independent. He's at 13. You have another independent at 4. No incumbent independent running there, so Labor is in with a chance definitely there. But the Greens are doing very well there, 26% of the primary vote as it stands, with 64,000 votes counted in the Wollongong Lord Mayoral race.
Final figures for you for Goulburn Mulwaree. Early reporting for that seat. Don't have massive figures. Possible retain for their current councillor Andy Wood. Possible retain. Not overly sure. Yeah, possible. It won't be an easy fight for him. Definitely. It's possibly retain for him. It depends on how preferences flow, because he's dealing with a number of ungrouped independents and a couple of grouped independents. That makes it really hard to tell. Labor will get 1, maybe 2. And the Junee, of course, it's uncontested, so they'll be guaranteed.
I believe there's a Shooters Fishers candidate there who's won because it's uncontested.
Yeah. So that's maybe 4. They will have 1. They're guaranteed 2. They might get 4. They might gain 1. But the question is, will they retain their seat in Goulburn Mulwaree?
Yeah, we'll have a look at that.
Guaranteed 2, and they're possible to get up to 4.
We'll have a look at that, and we'll focus on the shooters as well, obviously. Maggie, I'm just conscious, again, we're approaching about 2 minutes to go here, but any other thoughts at the moment, any other races you're looking at?
I think overall, just about the local elections in total, I think the Liberals would have got on a good performance if they could nominate in so many of these councils that they've missed out in. They seem to be doing pretty well in a lot of other ones, but it's really devastating for all these candidates. Dozens have lost election chances, and it's not necessarily benefited Labor either. Labor seems to be doing well in these local elections, but it's so-so for them. But the real winner of this night has been the Libertarians. I'd say probably will get double-digit councillors. It'll be pretty impressive if they do, and it'll be a great night for the minor party. I mean, this is one of their first elections since they've started adopting the Libertarian Party branch, the Libertarian Party name and advertising campaign.
Yeah, we will wait and see how the party goes. Again, we're calling them 4 seats. You can guarantee them for the Libertarian Party. We're saying another 5 are likely. Could get many more as these results continue to come in. And look, we will wait and see as it stands for that. I've just been told by someone to look at Randwick's Central Ward. The Greens are apparently in trouble there. Labor has 46% of the vote, the Liberals 36%. The Greens 17% and are under quota at the moment. 5,000 votes in at the moment there. We'll keep an update on the city of Randwick for you as well. Continuing our coverage next hour, of course, with the best election team in the country. Next hour is the final hour of counting as it stands, but plenty more results to come in as it stands, and continue to leave your comments in the live chat. Continue to give us your thoughts, your comments, your suggestions. We'll bring you all the latest details as results come in. You've been watching 6 News Live. Stay with us, plenty more coming out right after the break.
You're watching New South Wales Decides. Local elections 2024.
The Prime Minister gets up and says this, and I'm thinking, does this come from Channel 6 News?
Thanks for having me on your wonderful program.
Online news site 6 News.
And it's really good. 6 News. 6 News.
One Labor source has told 6 News that the party has no chance of winning, while another believes the party is either way.
Stephen Miles, he was walking just down the road here.
Long time viewer, first time on the show. You can call me anytime.
Of all the stations and the clamouring journalists in Australia, she did the first interview with this kid.
Great story also of how our democracy is being run by high school students.
I think the question everyone wants to know at this point is, will you quit the Labor Party?
Look, when I was crossing the floor, I crossed it knowing that there was going to be the potential expulsion as a consequence.
Live on 6 News, this is New South Wales Decides, Local Elections 2024.
And you're back with us live here on 6 News as we continue our coverage of the 2024 New South Wales local elections. I'm Leo Puglisi in 6 News headquarters. Really nice to have you here for what is said to be probably the final hour of counting before it closes at 10 o'clock Eastern. We'll bring you all the latest details. Of course, plenty more of results to come in. We're focusing on a number of races and we'll continue to bring you all those details. A lot else going on in the news at the moment though. For that, we want to head straight to the newsroom. Here's Austin Poll.
Thank you, Leo. We will get back to the New South Wales local government elections shortly, but to what else is making the news right now. And a mother of 2 boys who were discovered deceased in a Blue Mountains home has been charged with 2 counts of murder. Emergency services responded to a residence in Falcon Bridge on Tuesday after concerns were raised about the welfare of a woman and 2 children. The boys, aged 11 and 9, were reportedly found by their father at the home in Falcon Bridge on the same day. New South Wales Police have said that the boy's 42-year-old mother was also found at the scene with stab wounds and was transported to hospital in a critical but stable condition. After being discharged from the hospital on Friday, she was taken to Parramatta Police Station and charged with 2 counts of murder related to domestic violence, according to police. A man has died after a light plane crash southeast of Bendigo in central Victoria. Police say the pilot, the aircraft's sole occupant, died in Reddersdale yesterday afternoon. It's believed he was flying over private property when the plane crashed at about 12:30 p.m. He died at the scene. One witness has told the ABC that he drove to the crash site and saw a massive ball of flames and realised the plane had exploded on impact. Authorities will now prepare a report for the coroner. The Greens have opposed the federal government's proposed social media ban for teenagers under a certain age. South Australian Senator Sarah Hanson-Young has described the move as a knee-jerk policy. Here's some of what she told 6 News.
Obviously, we're concerned about how these social media platforms are continuing to be, in many ways, unsafe spaces for not just young people though, Leo, like for a lot of people. And these big tech companies have gotten away for far too long of self-regulation or even no regulation. And, they feed on people's private data, they sell it to advertisers, they target people with pretty manipulative algorithms. All of this is secret. Like, there's a lot of problems with how the big social media giants work. But we are concerned that rather than tackling those issues, a ban on teenagers being able to access social media seems, frankly, the wrong way to go. We're worried about the impact that this will have on young people themselves, and locking them out of what is clearly an important part now of community and society. And rather than just banning people, we should be making those platforms safer, making them take responsibility, regulating them, and protecting young people from the insidious nature of their business models. So that's the algorithms that are manipulative, the targeting of advertising, and the real privacy intrusion that these big social media giants have.
And that is 6 News for now. I'll be back with you next hour. We'll have all the latest headlines for you coming up then. For now, though, we're going to head back to Leo Puglisi in 6 News headquarters as we continue our coverage as New South Wales decides in the local elections.
You're watching New South Wales Decides Local Elections 2024.
And you're back with us live here on 6 News as we continue our coverage of the 2024 local elections. I'm Leo Puglisi in 6 News headquarters. Stuart Jeffrey with us at the moment. Stuart, we were just talking before about the Libertarian Party, and Maggie made a comment that they're the real winners of tonight. I would agree with that. I reckon you might as well, given they're going from really zero at the last election. You include obviously John Larder, they gained that incumbent, but they're doing exceptionally well in a number of places, including, of course, mid-coast especially. And look, of course, some of this is the fact that the Liberals aren't there. But I would say that if the Libertarians can, prove themselves as councillors, right, they've got 4 years to do that. They then get the incumbency benefit, which is pretty huge in local government, and they could stay in a lot of, if not all, the places where they win pretty decently. What do you reckon?
Absolutely. Well, what were we calling it before? Possibly double digits. We don't know the figures for Liverpool yet because they are done privately. So we don't know how we're looking at yet. So we can't call anything. I know the deputy leader was running for... was she running Gemma Noesti? She was running for mayor, wasn't she? If I'm not there.
Yeah, she is, and we actually spoke with Gemma Noisi a little earlier on 6 News. I'll give our Austin a moment to find the clip. But we spoke with her a little earlier on 6 News just to discuss the Libertarian campaign there. Liverpool, of course, has been in the headlines because the election was actually supposed to be deferred for a bit, and then it eventually came back. It is, as we said, conducted by a private company. But the Libertarians are definitely hopeful there. There's 2 wards. There's also a mayoral race. They're not going to win the mayoral race, but if they get a boost there, it might bode well for how they perform in the wards. Gemma Noisi is running in, I believe, North Ward, and she is also the mayoral candidate. As I said, we spoke with her a little earlier.
Obviously, we understand that there's a lot of libertarian sort of philosophy that could be pushed into our local government, especially when it comes to rates, and we know that councils like to waste a lot of our ratepayer money. So we thought this was a great opportunity to boost our profile within New South Wales, but we also are very passionate about, spreading libertarianism from the ground up. So that's why we, as a party, put ourselves in this position. But for myself, I was born and raised in Liverpool. I really care about the area. I want to see it flourish. And I do definitely think we pay a lot of rates down here in Liverpool, that's for sure. I do ask quite a few voters on the ground, or have you heard of us? We're the Libertarian Party, and a lot of them say no. And then when I do say, well, we were Liberal Democrats, and they said, oh, yeah, no, I do remember Liberal Democrats. So, look, it has been a little bit of a challenge, but I think if the candidates are on the ground selling our message and what we're trying to obviously push on council, that has helped us regardless. But yeah, it is a bit of a challenge, and it's going to be a challenge going to the next federal election, obviously. But we do have formerly Liberal Democrats on the on our logo, on the ballot, I should say. We can do that in New South Wales. We can't do it federally, but we can do it in New South Wales. So that has also helped us because people do remember us from back in the day. So yeah, it is a challenge, but I think eventually people get to know what libertarianism is. I think the turnout, I only can obviously speak for Liverpool. We have been touching base with a lot of the candidates that are running across the board, but in Liverpool, the turnout has been quite big. The problem we have here is obviously we have a lot of ethnics and people that can't speak English, so the informal vote is always high. We have a lot of people coming in saying, oh, what's this election? So yeah, you're right, they don't actually know which election it is. We're like, oh, it's the local election, council, etc. But no, the turnout has been, I had a very busy day today. It was a consistent long line at the booth I was at, which is great because when there's a long line, you can talk and give your pitch. And you do have to give a pitch because a lot of people don't know what's going on. They don't know what Liberal are doing. They don't know what Labor's doing. All they want to do is obviously whinge about what people aren't doing. That was, what the parties aren't doing, what the councillors aren't doing. So in terms of people coming in already informed, there aren't any, to be honest. Like there's probably a few, like a handful. So definitely, it's great when you've got a line so you can give your pitch.
Libertarian Liverpool candidate Gemma Noisi there, and we just want to make again call for the Libertarian Party. Bass Hill Ward on Canterbury Bankstown City Council. We are saying that they will gain that. And Elvis Sinisic, a former UAP candidate, former mixed martial arts. He will be elected to Bass Hill Ward on Canterbury Bankstown Council. We were already saying that was pretty likely, but another good night for them. And he would be one of the more high-profile names in the party, especially in New South Wales. And so this will be a really solid boost for them, and definitely one that was always possible from the outset. When you remember, again, there are no Liberals in that ward.
Yeah, definitely. As a question, he's taking a Liberal seat. So you mentioned earlier about the LP getting the Liberal Party votes. That's definitely true. Both Labor councils will retain their seats, and the Liberal seat flips to the Libertarian Party. So it's definitely the idea of the Libertarian Party taking the Liberal votes. I just want to flip quickly also over to Penrith South. Do we call that? Is the question. We have called one there. So that means Vanessa Polk gets in. The question is, do we call the second one?
What are the exact quota numbers they're giving for South at the moment?
Well, we're getting the issue of because it'll give us a quota of 6, even though there are 5 councils, because maths is weird when you look at dealing with quotas. It's at whatever level, it's always difficult using quotas. Now, I will go through them. Independents, 1.94 quota, formal votes 32.34%. The question is, how does that split? We don't know how that splits. So Sue Day probably, Faith Skinner possibly, but we don't know how they split. Then we go to the Libertarian Party, and that's 32.93%, which is 1.98 for the quota. Yes, we've called Vanessa Polak, probably Roxanne Vines, and then moving on to the vote for Labor, sitting at 2.08 for quota, 34.73% of the vote. So that means we can call it for Sue Day retains, LP gains, and Labor will then have 2. So 2 Labor, 1 independent, 1 LP, and then that means they are fighting over the final seat. Labor ahead right now for that final seat. Labor will be ahead by 1.08, but right behind them will be the LP at 0.98, and then independents at 0.94. Again, the issue is how the independents splitting the vote. It does seem to be a group ticket according to the commission, so probably that means Faith Skinner. Unless people vote below the line, in which case it gets more complicated. So it's a fight between Roxanne Vines, Lorraine Fordham, and Faith Skinner for that final seat in Penrith South. So possible LP seat there. Might be Labor, might be Independent, we don't know.
Yeah, definitely interesting there. Elvis Sinister, we might have to have him on. Interesting guy, as I mentioned. So I just have to say it because it is a name that is pretty well known within at least the Libertarian New South Wales circles, right? Ex-UAP in 2022, joined the Lib Dems about 2023, ran in the state election on the upper house ticket, obviously didn't get in, and he's a former mixed martial artist, right? He's and now he's an elected councillor. So that is big for the Libertarian Party, and they will be very, very, very happy with that one.
And that gives us 5
very
called
happy
seats
in the night anyway.
So that gives us Penrith South, they've got 1. Bass Hill, they've got 1. Mid Coast 2, they've got 1. Camden South, they've got 1. That's 5. And we don't know about Lata. And then we've got Wincarriby, possible 1, Mid Coast likely 3, Penrith likely possible 2nd.
And I was just going to say, we really encourage any of your comments as well. Let us know any thoughts you have on these races. We would love to hear them. We really would love to hear them. Georges River, I just want to take a quick look at Georges River, right, where the Liberal Party has been affected in part by the nominations debacle. This is one where you've got another one of those strong local parties, GRRP, Georges River Residents and Ratepayers Party. It's a bit of a tongue twister, or just GRR as it stands. They're looking, they've got a quota in Blakehurst Ward. They have they're under quota in Hurstville Ward. There is an independent there though. They close to quota and should probably get in Coggara Bay Ward. In Mortdale Ward, they are well over quota. They got 41.7% of the vote there. And in Peakhurst Ward, they are leading. It's just 2 candidates there, Labor and GRRR. They're leading 54% of the vote. They got 2 quotas there and will get 2 seats. Labor will probably get 1 unless the vote's split there. But again, only 2 candidates, which makes calculations a lot easier. So it is interesting, Stuart, because back in Queensland, I want to circle back to Queensland, and I encourage people to check this out. It's both at 6newsau.com and localelections.com.au. Your piece on some of the local parties and groups that were running in Queensland at the time. Now there were things like you remember in like Toowoomba you had Westgarth and like that. In Mackay you had Mackay First, which George Christensen ran on. Had a lot of these. Now they do it slightly differently. New South Wales is notable. It has a full-on party register for local parties. What do you make of, I guess, some of the benefits of that? And we note that while there are plenty of not registered local parties, these guys have a name on the ballot, and sometimes they can be pretty dominant. As we know, Your Northern Beaches is probably going to get a majority after tonight.
It does have to make it easier for us to work out who's running for who. We don't. What was Say No to Woke? That was Toowoomba. That's my seat, Toowoomba. That's in Toowoomba Regional Council. That was. Do you remember that? You remember the fun of that, Leo?
I do remember the fun of that. I look, the Queensland local government elections night was all fun, wasn't it? Right? We look, Toowoomba was weird, and there was the Electoral Commission delays at the time, and we had some weird moments there. I mean, there was, as you say, Westgarth. There was, Braden Smith was out there campaigning. It was weird. Toowoomba was something else. By the way, just want to make a note, again, from thank you to Nick McLaren from the ABC on Twitter. He just pointed out there was a referendum in Kiama on whether you should directly elect the mayor. That has failed. 44% of people are voting yes, so that fails. Wallandilly, Matt.
Which one's this, sorry?
Looks like he's being returned there. What was that, Stuart?
What was that last one you said?
The referendum?
Yes.
That was Kiama, directly elected mayor. Should they do it? No. 54% have voted yes. So 56% have voted no. No directly elected mayor in Kiama. There isn't. It was whether to introduce it, as I believe. I don't believe there is a directly elected mayor currently. If I'm wrong on that, please let me know, but I don't believe it. What is noticeable, though, is that there are two more mayoral elections this time than 2021. Two referendums in 2021 voted for a directly elected mayor. Thus, there are two more directly elected mayors at this election. So, that's something, isn't it? But we'll keep covering these. How else do you say? Kiama?
You can expect the Commonwealth knowledge piece on those tomorrow, provided we get it out on time. But
definitely,
I'll take a look at these referendums in depth tomorrow, so keep an eye out for that.
Keep your comments coming in. Damien says, look at Blacktown Ward 2. If you say so, we'll look at Blacktown Ward 2. Blacktown is the largest LGA in the entire state, by the way. What is it? 400,000 residents or something like that. It is huge. It is a massive LGA, and the Liberals did endorse. There were like 3 different independent Liberal groups. Kiama. Is it Kiama? Oh, I don't care. I mean, I do care. I value Kiama residents. Sorry, this guy said, look at Ward 2 in Blacktown.
Yeah, looking at it right now.
And yes, it's Labor is at 40%, the Liberals are at 41.9%, and the Greens are at 18%. So that's Greens at 0.7 of a quota, the Liberals at 1.7 of a quota, ALP at 1.6 of a quota. The Liberals didn't endorse in Blacktown last time. There were like 3 different independent Liberal groups, which totally screwed them over, right? But now they're back on the ballot there. And it's interesting. We've said this all night, right? The amount of places that were Liberal strongholds where they're now off the ballot, and the amount of places where they gave up in 2021 but are now on the ballot is just so fascinating to watch, and where I guess maybe nominations were prioritised and where they stuffed up. It's just incredible to watch. I know we're beating a dead horse here, but it's just one of the most fascinating things that has happened in local elections. I I remember when it broke. I genuinely cannot believe it happened.
Hang on.
Yeah, it's quite remarkable. So that is the latest from Blacktown Ward 2.
Ward 2, in 1 independent, 2 Labor. It'll now be 1 Labor, 1 Liberal, and probably 1 Greens.
Well, I'll just check very quickly, by the way, Stuart, as well, on who that I'm just looking at Ward 2. Sorry,
it's Michael Stubley.
Give me one sec. Yeah, I was just going to say, so the independent there, that was from the Blacktown Coalition team. That was an independent Liberal group. So essentially a Lib at that time there. But you'll know...
But it'll be a different Lib.
Real vote mess there from 21.
It'll be a different Lib, though. So he's out. Julie Griffith retains her seat, the deputy mayor. And the 3rd seat, which is currently held by Kushpinder Kaur, he might lose his seat. It depends on who gets that 3rd seat. Greens are ahead. If anyone's game, but Greens are ahead.
Right. I just want to quickly have a look at Sydney councillor, because we haven't updated those results, and we've already called Clover Moore will retain that seat, the mayoralty, that is. It's 10 councillors total. Look, Stuart, the Liberals are polling at 13% of the vote. That's 1.3% of a quota. Can we give them a seat?
What's the percentage, sorry, you said?
13.7%. That's 1.37 of a quota. So they're over quota.
Sure.
All right. Game 1 for the Liberals. Interesting who other is. Now, Yvonne Weldon Independence. She's an incumbent. She's at 0.9% of the vote at the moment. So she's 0.9% quota. That's 9% of the vote. She definitely could get in. We'll see how preferences go. And the Libertarian Party, Sean Masters, he's there. He will not get in. He's got 0.3% of a quota. I can't see Sean Masters getting in at this point on council, and definitely not in the mayoralty. So I think you can safely rule him out. Socialist Alliance also 0.3%. one of a quota. They've got less than a percentage of the total councillor vote. They will also definitely not get in on that. So there you go. Clovermore Independence team, 2 Labor, 1 Liberal, 1 Greens, 1 and Independent and other. We don't have any labelled for them yet, but I'm sure we will get some in eventually. We will wait and see there. Kiama. Okay, it's Kiama. Thank you, Garrigle Ange on Twitter. Forgive me, guys. I'm seeing these on paper, I try not to venture to that state, right? Stuart, you're on top, I'm below. Stay away from it. Except ACT. ACT's nice. Everyone loves the ACT, don't we? Anyway, any other results you want us to look at, please let us know, guys. We're wrapping up coverage, our full coverage, in about 40 minutes, because that is purely just when results stop being counted. But we want to keep hearing your thoughts, and we want to get your comments in at the moment, so please do let us know, and we'll keep bringing them in.
We've got newish figures for Camden North, and we can call Libertarian Party in Camden North. That's another game.
So what are the figures there? Because they have been doing all right in Camden generally at the moment, but
actually,
this is again big.
Yeah, we can call it. It's only 1,600 votes counted, but it's pretty much an even split. So it'll be it'll probably go 1 Independent, 1 Labor, 1 Libertarian Party, probably.
Gotcha.
Libertarian Party as well.
Sorry, yeah, I just got a comment as well from who was it? Extreme Media in the live chat. Thank you very much. Says, look at Upper Lachlan. We will indeed. And the Libertarian Party, they are endorsing their... Now, there's no groups. It is proportional, but it's just like one ballot. There's no groups. There are no endorsed candidates other than the Libertarian Party. I think there might be some independent nationals there, though. And he's right, looking at Gregory Harris, the Libertarian candidate. He is polling at 9.8%. That's 0.98% of a quota. That is pretty significant for the party.
Are we calling 7 Libertarian Party seats then?
We might, but I just want to quickly look at something very, very, very quickly in terms of the general vote in Upper Lachlan. And look, of course, we have to remember, unlike federal elections, right, where there's like a basic level, the populations are so whack in some of these compared to others, right? So that has to be taken, into account. Okay. So, 6,000, give or take 6,000 people are enrolled in Upper Lachlan. As it stands, 3,000 votes have been counted. Give or take, probably more than half of the votes have been counted. All right, Austin. Stuart, Libertarian Party polling at 0.98% of a quota, with give or take about 50 to 60% counted. 9 vacancies to fill, about 12 candidates from my look. What do we reckon? Call it?
Call it.
Call it. There we go. We'll just make another call. The Libertarians will gain a seat on Upper Lachlan Shire Council. That is another gain for the Libertarian Party in an area where they are the only endorsed party at the moment in that council, and we can call that now. The Libertarian Party will gain a seat on Upper Lachlan Shire Council. Gregory Harris will be elected, and we also called just before Camden's Council North Ward. We're also calling it for them there. That's 7 Libertarians we're calling. And Stuart, based on the likely seats, I think pretty safe. Pretty safe they're going to get over 10.
That Liverpool, we don't know. I think they've got 3 candidates running in Liverpool. Let me just double check that. Yeah, just give me 1 second. Yeah, 1, 2. No, only 2. They only got 2 in Liverpool.
Do you think, Stuart, this is going to help establish the Libertarian Party as I guess the main of the freedom parties? And I include UAP there, even though yes, they still exist, but they're not registered and are on the kind of way out at the moment. But they've just run what is I get that there's some element of the Liberals not endorsing, and I get some of them are these tiny councils in rural areas. but they have just run a very clearly successful statewide campaign and had targeted areas, and they've won in those areas. You know, is this going to help with their standing as you know, a serious Freedom Party? Whereas you look at One Nation, and again, with all due respect, right, they have had constant defections every year of their existence.
I mean, look, OLC's 2 councillors maybe in Cumberland, nothing in Canada Bay, and what's the third seat there?
Well, Canada Bay, they're not running. Parramatta, have we said Parramatta?
So they're out in Parramatta, 2 in Cumberland, 9 in Canada Bay. So it's 2 down from, what did they have? 9, I think, was our count. So
something like that. There was also Mayoralty. They've had some defections. They've had some gains. It's a bit confusing, but go on.
Shooters, guaranteed 2. Might have 3 or 4. We're not sure. They currently have 3. Shooters, that means that shooters are, again, all due respect, they're pretty stable, but they're quite low. The issue is Nationals playing. What role will the Nationals play? That's what we don't know. Nationals are strong in the seats where shooters are going as well, so we don't know whether they're going to go shooters or Nationals. At a federal level, they'll probably go Nationals. One Nation is following in New South Wales. UAP, we don't know because they're currently deregistered. And Libertarian, the Lib Dems. The Libertarian Party, probably double digits. Even assuming that people, in the next election, let's say, everyone thinks, okay, this party's horrible, we'll dump more, we'll go for Liberals. The next federal election's 1 year away. Even assuming that the party will do poorly, it's a question of politics. It'll probably go change council to council. It'll be the best, but I don't see them being. They're not going to pull a One Nation 1998 Queensland election and immediately splinter. We've got no signs of that here, and the unestablished party, One Nation, was not.
Although I note, and to be fair, right, we have to remember that one of their councillors, of their few that they've ever got back when they were the LDP, one of them did quit. Jeff Patet, I think, in Ku-ring-gai, I think he was in.
Sounds right.
Yeah, he did quit the party at various points during the election. I didn't see much coverage of that. There's not much you can find on it, but he did indeed leave during his term. Granted, that was just one guy. Evidently, though, that they've got a lot of people who I guess are maybe more committed to this party. And, you know, if they can hold themselves together, right, they're doing well if they want to push for maybe the Senate, both nationally next year. You know, I reckon Jordan Ditloff has a chance in Victoria, and you know, in the New South Wales upper house, right, in 2027. You know, Ruddock wouldn't be up, so can they get someone else in there? You know, I wouldn't be surprised if I know we're thinking way down the lines to it, but someone like Elvis Sinisic could be their lead candidate in the next upper house election in New South Wales, right? You know, just that name, I think he'd probably have a strong chance to get in. Maybe there's some others, though. Gemini EC and Liverpool.
The question is, does Ruddock jump?
We'll wait and see.
Does Ruddock jump again for federal?
He might, but I don't know if that's going to disrupt things when it comes to, like, the way he, you know, is a member of the upper house, right? Whether they're going to have to replace him for a month or two or something like that. Whether they want to deal with that, I don't know. Whether they can find someone who's got, you know, name recognition or something like that. Mind you, of course, in the grand scheme of things, respect to John Ruddock, but he doesn't have, you know, ginormous name recognition. No one in, I guess, the freedom movement has probably as much name recognition as Pauline Hanson. For all you could say about Pauline Hanson, she's incredibly well known as a politician. So, you know, that's something to take into account. We're talking a lot about that, though. Plenty of other races.
I want to say, before we move on,
yeah,
before we move on, I want to comment on that.
And we will.
UAP.
I was just gonna very quickly, one more on the Libertarians in a rural area, Snowy Valley, one more time on this, and John Larder, and the vote hasn't changed at least, still at 0.6 of a quota, so we can forget Snowy Valley at the moment. Please no one, Stuart.
The thing when you're comparing Ruddock to Pauline Hanson, the big difference is Queensland. Cutter, Hanson, and the UAP all started in Queensland. Did the That could be... No, the UAP did start in Queensland.
Yeah, Clive Palmer. Yeah, it was Palmer United.
True. They've reformed. Or apparently they're the old Liberal Party from the 1930s.
Thank you for reminding me that they bizarrely claim that. That is genuinely... I know it sounds like something just stupid for like nerds, but it is very funny that they claim to be a 100-year-old party.
The UAP claims to be based on the old UAP of Menzies, and Libertarian Party claims to be the party of old Menzies, but when he was Prime Minister, I don't know how that works. Putting that aside, the difference is Queensland does not have an upper house, so to get elected to the lower house, which is usually the area for independents, and upper house is usually the area for parties, they have to be eccentric. They have to have something that sets them apart. And that's why you get Carter, why you get Hanson, why you get Palmer, because they have to be eccentric to win seats in the lower house, because parties tend to go broad for their focus, whereas independents go for local issues. So the important thing here for Ruddock is that he is not Hanson, he is not Carter, he is not Palmer, or even Kelly. He's a very different, because he's not from Queensland. He's probably going to go the same way of Limbrick. Limbrick got back in based on who he was, rather than on the party platform. So, whenever you're talking about Ruddock,
there's a little help from group voting tickets, mind you.
True, but keeping that in mind, that when we compare him to Hanson or to Carter or to Palmer, very different starting point.
You're right. Jared points out in the chat the Libertarians running Canada, but we actually did speak to their candidate there. Kurt Pudnick is a former Greens candidate. They were the only below the line group. It was just Liberal, Labor, and the Greens, no OLC. And
we have figures. He's out.
They were never going to win there. They were at 0.6. Was the voting preferential?
Sorry, 0.06. Leo.
Yeah, no, Xander, yes, if you did 1 and then 2, it's preferential, right? It's optional preferential. You could have just done at least 1. That's only for New South Wales local and state, though. Federal elections, please number every single box in the lower house to make your vote count. Other rules there, just look it up. If you voted just 1 and 2, you will be safe at this election. Should be fine. As long as you didn't vote like 1 above the line, 2 below the line, then you'd be screwed. But I don't know why you do that. But yeah, just for New South Wales local, just remember that. Although you can draw a penis on your ballot and it'll still be formal if the numbers are legible, by the way. The AEC has confirmed that. I presume it's the same for the New South Wales CC. We're going off track. Anyway, any other results you want us to look at, guys? 25 minutes till we about wrap up this coverage, by the way. I got a nice little pin, by the way. You can't see it on air, by the way, but Australia won. And I'm not talking about the political party, Stuart. We're not talking about Ricardo Bosie's party. You can zoom in, it doesn't matter. Let's use it. Australia, vote one, you know.
So the guy who can't vote to the guy who can vote.
The green screen ruins it. But it looks good. It looks good. Trust me. Hang on.
Put a photo of it on Twitter. Nah.
Bloody green screen. If I move it in front of my face.
Just put a photo on Twitter.
There it is. There it is.
Sorry, X. My bad. X.
No, it's Twitter. Anyway, any further results you want us to look at, by the way, about 25 minutes till we wrap up here. But of course, by the way, if you're wanting for continued coverage, go to Twitter, follow Local Election AU, not Local Elections AU, for some, there's a character limit, Local Election AU on Twitter. Go to localelections.com.au, or you can go to localelection.com.au. We bought the redirect. It was smart like that. And of course, we're always live 24/7 with full coverage. We'll bring you the results right throughout the day tomorrow. And of course, again, the big story, I think, is the Libertarian Party here. And it is hard when you're looking at like the Greens and the Labor results, and the Liberal results are especially hard given what they've done. It is sometimes hard because, you know, we don't we don't have a statewide seat total, but the Libertarians, we know where they're running and we're able to find them. So any further comments, please let us know on where we should get them in. Stuart,
I'm just trying to see where we've got recent figures from.
128 to pick from.
Yeah, but the question is, which of them have new figures? Answer the question. A lot of these seats we don't have new figures from. I'm just going to scroll through. We've got recent-ish figures for Hunters Hill. Just going to check those. I don't believe it was being too Liberal, one Independent. We can call Hunters Hill South Ward. That's pretty easy. 63%, 36%. That's pretty much 2/3. So that's 1/3. We can call Hunters Hill North, and I'll just check Hunters Hill South. But I think it'll go the same way. Yeah.
Can we take a look at Blue Mountains just at the moment? Because that's where the Liberals are totally off the ballot. Some races are just Labor versus Greens. I know the Greens position themselves to say, Liberal voters might be welcoming us. Can you just take a look? Do me a favour. I just got to check something on my phone. But can you just do me a favour and have a look at where the Blue Mountains results are coming in? I think there's 4 or 5 wards.
Yep, so I will go through those. Ward 2 is the one that had a Libertarian Party candidate in it. He's out. It'll probably go, hang on. It'll probably go against him. That's my best bet there. Looking at those figures, I'll just go through those. We've got, 63% Labor, Greens at 24, and then Libertarian Party at 13. We'll go to Labor 1 Green. Libertarian Party not benefiting from the Liberal vote there, unfortunately for them. I'm sure they would be very happy about that, but overall, still a good night for them. Go to Ward 1. That'll probably go 1 Greens, 2 Labor. So again, hang on. It'll go probably 2 Labor, 1 Greens. Could go 2 Green, 1 Labor, but probably Labor gets the 2 seats there. Ward 3. Let me just check that one for you. All right, Ward 3, we are looking at, that's a 3 councillor seat. It'll probably go 1 Greens, 1 Labor, 1 Independent, based on the figures we're seeing right now. Labor could go 1 Independent, 2 Labor. I'm happy to call it 1 Independent, 1 Labor. And the question is, who gets that 3rd seat? Labor would be at 0.9 for the quota, and Greens at 0.82. So we're not sure who'll get that 3rd seat there, but it'll be 1 Independent, 1 Labor definitely. 3rd seat up for grabs. And then finally, we've got Blue Mountains Ward 4, where it'll be 3 Labor. Ward 4 goes all 3 Labor. 85% versus 15%. Labor wins all 3 seats in Ward 4. So a Labor majority, Independent in there, and a few Greens.
Sorry, I just want to get to a couple comments here. Ambrose says, look at Bayside. Stuart, I'll let you look up Bayside, but Extreme Media made a good recommendation by looking at Upper Lachlan. Said, look at Port Macquarie Hastings for councillors. There's 8 councillors up for grabs there. And as it stands, the Libertarian Party, 14% of the vote, 1.2 of a quota, 15,000 votes in there. Looking pretty strong, and I think that's another we can put in the likely pile, if not almost game here. But that is just another place where the Libertarian Party is doing very well at the moment. Port Macquarie Hastings.
Yeah, definitely. I'm happy to say. Yeah, I'm happy to call that because, Labor will get 1. Libertarian Party ahead of Labor, but behind the Greens. How's that for you?
It's something. It
LP 1.28, Greens 1.41.
Elliot's things say look at Ride. Let's look at Ride. Hey, Ride. Directly elected mayor there, and 3 wards each have 4 councillors each. The mayoral race there, Liberals 39, ALP 24, Independent Roy Maggio 23, Greens 13. Central Ward, Liberals are at 2 quotas, Labor's at 1.5. East Ward, Liberals are at almost 2 quotas, Labor's at about 1.5, Independents at 1.3. West Ward, Unity, Australian Multicultural Unity Inc. I think that's AMUI. I would say that's Unity, if my memory is right there. They're at 3.4. Liberals are at 2.39, almost 50% of the quota there. Labor's at 1.47. There's your update from Ryde. Sir Sam the Third says, look at Newcastle. Let's look at Newcastle then. Newcastle, which has, of course, a mayoral election. I was hearing some things about Labor there during the night. We know our Newcastle, which is the main independent group you're seeing, have been doing decent, at least, and we're concerned for Labor. And I think evidently there's a reason for those concerns, because you look at the current, and I note, of course, optional preferential makes things a bit more interesting. Labor's incumbent at 32.8% of the vote, then Ross Kerridge, our Newcastle, 31.8% of the vote, just 1% off there. The Greens are at 17, the Liberals are at 12.3. There's a couple other smaller parties there. For Newcastle Ward 1, the Greens are at barely ahead, I might add, with that graphic. Labor struggling, to be honest, but they are technically ahead on primary. We look at 29% of the vote for the Greens in Ward 1, 32.5% in for the ALP, and some independents doing well there. Ward 2, you have Greens at 23, Liberals at 24, Labor at 31, Independents at 19, Ward 3, so that was Ward 2, Ward 3, Greens are at 25, Labor at 38, Independents at 28, I believe that's an Independent Liberal. Ward 4, you have, I might be wrong on the Independent Liberal thing, just ahead, thank you, Austin. Excuse me, for Ward 4, Labor 44, Greens 16, Liberals 23, Independents 16 there, and Christians for Community 0.9. So there's your latest update from Newcastle. What is a progressive vote, Stuart? I think that just means the updating vote tally. It'll progress during the night. I don't think it means anything.
Yes, the progressive vote you've got there, that is based on the votes they have in. So they go, okay, the quota in, what seat is it? Now, let me just pull, for example, City of Sydney. 9 councillors from 49 candidates. There are 34,000 votes in. So the progressive quota is what quota they need. So I think the quota is 9 or 10, depending on how they calculate it. And so the progressive quota is how many votes you need at this point in time to meet that. So, for example, the Greens 5,541. So they hit that quota based on the number. So quota is 3,057 based off of the number of votes they have in, which is 34,000. Divide that by the quota, and so you get for your progressive quota at that time. How many votes do you need to hit that quota? And that'll update higher when the total number of votes counted go higher.
Just looking at the live chat again, thank you for your comments again. Keep them coming in. Okay, so here's the confusing thing. Look, for Fairfield, it's on a website. I don't even know if you're able to access it. I was just passed on the link. Thank you, Google Home Mini, for the coverage. We do bother to care about it. Sorry, someone asked, I'm not reading that full name. Oh, Pigeon's quite interesting, actually. Maybe Pigeons are interesting. Where can you view Fairfield results? I was given this link. Again, I'm not 100% sure this is actually, easily accessible. I was just passed it on. It's at electionnightreporting.com.au, and then I got it for /elections/Liverpool-mayor. I'm presuming you can get the same for Fairfield. It's just really not easy for me to navigate at the moment, which is very annoying. I've actually got Fairfield up. I've got Fairfield up. Here you go. Here's your Fairfield count. We can project Frank Carbone. He is re-elected as Lord Mayor. As Mayor of Fairfield. Frank Carbone, is re-elected as Mayor of Fairfield with 80% of the vote versus Labor there. A whopping win for Frank Carbone there. No real surprise. I really can't put it in the chat at the moment. I've got my handful. Just one more time. electionnightreporting.com.au/elections-fairfield- electionnightreporting.com.au/elections-fairfield-mayor. That should get you it. If it doesn't, I really don't have any other options. Look at localelections.com.au. We will cover it in more depth. It's very annoying.
Is that Fairfield? Fairfield, is it a capital A or a capital F lowercase?
I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters. Election night reporting.
Okay.
We'll figure it out. It's really annoying. I don't know why they do this. It just makes things harder for me. But Frank Carbone is re-elected as Lord Mayor.
Yep, I've got it as well. Cool. Why is it all sideways? Why do they hate us? I can't be bothered to read it all sideways. And there's this is a horribly designed website. Yeah. I'm happy to. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Frank Carbone, nearly 80% of the vote counted. Nearly 80% of the vote. Straightforward. I don't have the link to the council though. I only got the mayor.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's you look up -councillor or councillors. We'll figure it out. Localelections.com.au. I would not be surprised if you look at that Frank Carbone vote. I reckon you can safely say that another majority for the Carbone-Lee alliance will probably occur then. If Labor's getting 20% of the vote in the council-wide mayoral race, I can't see him doing too well everywhere else. Oh, there's the footy. I was wondering what's happening there. Let's bring Roman on live. Oh, poor Roman. Poor Roman. Poor Roman. No, whatever. I can't talk. No more footy talk for me. We've got about 10 minutes left if you want any more requests in before we wrap up this coverage. Reminder, though, we, of course, continue our coverage at localelections.com.au and on Twitter at localelectionau. And, of course, we're live 24/7 on 6 News with the latest headlines on the hour. Every hour we'll have special coverage of this right throughout tomorrow, I am sure. Local elections on Twitter. It's some great stuff we're doing. I'm really, really happy with how it's all turning out. This is amazing effort, and, you know, for us to be able to do this, it's just, you know, fantastic. We're all really enjoying it. So thank you all for tuning in tonight, wherever you're watching. If you're in New South Wales or you're not, really appreciate your company tonight. Plenty more results still coming in at the moment, although again we stop at 10 because counting is stopping at 10. Bow, there we go. I saw you asked for Laura Strawbridge. Look, we had scroll back on this live stream like 10 minutes. We had Ride. What were we saying? Labor, kind of. It was a bit boring there. Cumberland. Boss is Cumberland. Okay, let's go to Cumberland. Actually, Stuart, can you bring up Cumberland? I'll look up Hilltop. You look up Cumberland. Hilltop's council.
Which one do you want?
At the moment, as it stands, look, it's largely all independents there. And so we'll see there. There's also a really interesting story. Matthew Statmiller is contesting 2 different LGAs at this election as an independent. So what happens if he gets into both? We'll wait and see. There's also a referendum for Hilltops.
Did someone say CK?
True. Maybe do it. Maybe do it. A beautiful studio, hey? It does look good. Don't give away too many secrets on the VMix. The question was
I have an update
for Hilltops. So I was just going to ask this. The referendum question was, quote, do you want a reduction of Hilltops councillors from 11 to 9? As it stands, the yes vote is ahead, but there's only one place reporting at the moment. I would not be surprised if yes wins. Usually these reduced councillor questions pass. You ask people to get rid of the number of politicians, they're going to say yes. What do we have from Cumberland? And then I'll get up in a West, but what do we have from Cumberland?
So we had 2. We called 2 earlier for OLC. They get 1 in Roseland's ward as well. 0.8 of the quota. I'm happy to give it to them. Probably 20%. The only party with more than that is Labor, and that's at 36%. So I'm happy to say that OLC retains a seat there. That gives them 3 from what we've called.
Yeah. Inner West, here we go. So the Liberals are back to endorsing here. So we'll go through this very quickly, and I won't read out the full ward names, forgive me, but like I'm conscious of the time here. Ashfield, Liberals 18%, Labor 43%, Greens 38%. Liberals will struggle to get in there, I imagine. Balmain, Greens 28%, Labor 45%, Liberals 13%, Independents 10%, Ungrouped has another 1.6%. Leichhardt, Liberals 24%, they should get in there. Greens 33%, Labor 41%, Ungrouped Libertarian 0.6%, obviously will not get in there. Marrickville, Independent 19%, that's Conservative Independent former councillor 19%, ALP 42%, Greens 37.97%. Stanmore, the final one, Labor 43%, Greens 44%, Liberals 12% in Stanmore. So imagine that's a bit more of the left-wing part of Inner West Council there. Looks like Labor has lost any majority, right? It's going to be a no overall control type situation. Although they might get a plurality depending on exact seat numbers. 15 seats up for grabs there, 5 councils, 3 wards. Looking at some of the main issues we're looking at, some of the top stories we're looking at the moment, of course, want to mention back to Sydney, where Clover Moore has been re-elected as Lord Mayor of Sydney. We're not 100% sure of who will get in on council. You can see some of the results at the bottom of your screen, but Clover Moore is in for a record 6th term. The Libertarian Party, that is probably the story of the night, right? They are ahead in so many places at the moment. We can say they've won 7 seats, probably going to get more, almost certainly going to get double digits, but we can already guarantee 7 from early results. Mid-North Coast, they're getting multiple in. There's some wards that are 5-member and they're getting 2 in. It's pretty extraordinary there. So that is something to watch. And I'll just circle back to Sydney as well. You've got the total at the moment, 9 councillors up for grabs, and the mayor's the 10th. 2 for the Clover Moore Independent team, 1 for Labor, 1 for the Liberals, 1 for the Greens, and other none yet. Yvonne Weldon Independents will be one to watch, and we'll see there. Localelections.com.au, at localelectionau, and at SIXNewsAU for all the coverage you need on Twitter, on our website, and everywhere you want to watch. It is incredible, but you know, plenty still to come. You know, we've got so many more results to get in for you, and we're really enjoying doing this. Any more results you want to get us? I'm conscious of the fact it's 9:54 p.m. and like again, usually I don't wrap up results, right? But they end at 10, and so like, I'm not going to 11, you know. We already looked at Pittwater, Central Coast. We can briefly look at Central Coast. Unfortunately, I don't have the exact results for like the ward names, because I know there's Team Central Coast that is in all the wards. But you can look at some of these, and it's a pretty close thing in the referendum to reduce the number of councillors. The last time I checked, Labor is doing ahead in Budgewoi, probably butchered that pronunciation. Independents, I'm presuming that's Team Central Coast, doing well in Gosford East, in Gosford West also. The Liberals are doing well there. They're ahead. The Entrance Ward, AJP's at 13%. The Liberals are at 36% there. They're doing well there. Central Coast Wyong Ward, Wyong, Liberals 31, Labor 36 there. Some interesting results. We'll bring you more details again, localelections.com.au. Tweed. Can we quickly get to Tweed? Stuart, can you quickly bring up Tweed? And the people want to see what's going on in Tweed, and then we'll get to some final thoughts. But if you can bring up Tweed in the next 10 seconds, please do.
I've got it.
Shoot. What are the Greens on? Just tell us what the Greens are on. Forget everyone else. What are the Greens on?
The Greens are guaranteed 13%.
Greens are guaranteed. All right, we are locking in the Greens will win a spot.
Liberals guaranteed 2, Labor guaranteed 1, Independents 1, and there. And the rest of it.
So the Greens should get in there, and we were speaking with Amanda Con earlier. It's going to be interesting there. Look, Stuart, give us in about 30 seconds, what are your takeaways from tonight?
All good. Greens okay. Libertarian Party amazing. Liberals, you screwed up. and Labor, you're happy. Independents really good for a few of the cities. That's 30 seconds for you. So
Yeah, it is a fascinating night, and look, it's been a massive night for the Libertarian Party, right? And we'll continue to see how results continue to come in for them, and we'll be watching those very closely. Also seeing where the Liberals do and don't win, and it looks like they'll probably get in Pittwater ward. Someone mentioned in the chat where they've got one candidate, Mandeep Singh, their Stephen Bradbury candidate. Doesn't even have the word Liberal on the ballot, but he's an endorsed candidate, and looks like he will get in. And he's leading the vote at the moment as an ungrouped candidate. Pretty extraordinary. Pittwater ward on Northern Beaches Council, but your Northern Beaches headed for a majority. This has been 6 News covering the 2024 New South Wales local government elections. I'm Leo Puglisi, and 6 News headquarters. That has been Stuart Jeffrey and Maggie Perry as well. Thank you very much for watching. Our coverage continues 24/7 on 6 News at localelections.com.au, at localelectionau on Twitter, and of course 24/7 on air with our bulletins on the hour every single hour. We'll be back October 19 for the ACT Decides, and of course 3 New South Wales state by-elections as well. Thank you very much for watching. On behalf of everyone here at 6 News, including our great producer Austin Pollock, have a good night.
You're watching New South Wales Decides, Local Elections 2024. This has been a 6 News special presentation.